Yeah, I mess with Yun's team.
Yo, what's up, guys? Rick Rom is here, and I'm joined today with a very special guest, and we will be doing a new type of special collaboration. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Maximus Z305. I make videos on fighting game content. From games like Marvel vs. Capcom, a lot of KOF, Fatal Fury, all that.
Nice. But yeah, guys, it's going to be a different type of stream tonight. Yesterday we did our Fatal Fury live stream, and then today we're going to be having a nice, I would say, a little debate slash discussion with Maximus. And we can just wait till like a little bit more people come in. But yeah, let's just get to getting to know each other for a little bit, and then we can jump straight into the topics, Maximus. But yeah, it's been cool, man. But I'll give the mic over to you, and then you can just say what you need to say.
Been playing City of the Wolves lately.
Yeah, I did have a lot of different impressions when I got it. Now I played it a little bit last night. I thought it was pretty cool too. So
Yeah, I feel they messed with the damage a little bit. I don't know if it's just me, but I noticed that attacks don't hit quite as hard compared to the beta.
yeah, and then I did see that the damage did has been like a little bit reduced, so you're not like getting destroyed by like a lot of big ton EX rev
Yeah,
combos.
yeah, no more whiff punish like fierce into like rev cancel. Like it doesn't do as much damage anymore. Which is pretty good change. You can still get pretty high damage. You just gotta work a little bit harder for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I was mostly concerned about when I did my beta impressions video, which was pretty cool. Although I did see other people streaming it, I think within the week. Like I think I saw other VTubers stream it, and they were getting like destroyed by like rev combos. But I think that's mostly a character specific issue, like with Kevin and I saw and Vox.
Oh yeah, man, Kevin's rev combos, they're insane, especially because like he can combo into his level 1 super early, and like the scaling is basically like so free afterwards. He can like two tap you.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I think they're aware of that too because Kevin's been like running like dominant lately. But yeah, I see there's a lot more people in the live stream. We'll probably get some chatters a little bit later. But
Alright.
whenever you want to start your discussions or anything, we can get to that.
Sure, you want to get started now, or
Sure. I can. I guess I can do my intro too, like just so you have like an intro of me in my on your channel.
okay? Am I coming on? Is my audio coming in a little too weird, too low, or
Let me check the.
like how do I sound from your end?
You know what? I should probably add like All right, can we hear you talk for a little bit?
Testing, testing.
I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, I forgot to turn on the desktop audio on here, so I think that's
Okay.
coming off a bit better.
You know, it's kind of funny that Kevin is broken again because he was arguably the best character in the previous game.
Yeah, some things never change, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
What's up, Purely Buying 10? But yeah, the audio's a lot better. Okay, I'm glad we got that fixed. But yeah,
Okay.
let me restart. Not restart, but let me just introduce what we're doing today. So what's up, guys?
Yeah.
It is another Rick Rom live stream. It's gonna be a different type of live stream tonight. We're gonna have more of a, I would say, a debate slash discussion stream with a very special guest, Maximus. I'll give him the spotlight right now. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Maxim C305. I make video game content on fighting games. I do a bunch of shorts that show like game highlights, combo videos, a bit of deep dives into comparing games like Street Fighter and like Fatal Fury, that type of stuff.
Hell yeah. And if you guys are just not tuning in too, or this is the first time you're seeing my live stream, I am Rick Rom17. Some people call me Rick for short, or Rom, either way. But I also do a lot of fighting game content. I live stream fighting games almost weekly. I do a lot of classic fighting games and some modern fighting games. But I also like making short clips of streams that I've done, and it's just like having fun playing video games on here. But yeah, this was something that was a long time coming because I found out Maximus through some of his videos. I really liked his Stir Strike video I saw, I think, a few months back, and that's how we got into communication through some of our videos. We found each other out through the videos.
Yeah, the famous the Garo Third Strike video, comparing how kind of like both games try to move their franchises forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing that really resonated with me because those were games I grew up on, and I really like streaming both those games, Garo and Third Strike, back to back. And those are some of my favorite fighting games to show off and to show. But
Mhm.
yeah, Maximus, would you like to start off with what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, so getting into what we're doing here today, we're gonna talk about like the core system mechanics in like the modern day fighting game, like especially like revolving around how like meter is built and carried through round to round. And I think the first game, I think the first mainstream game that really kind of kicked off this trend is I think this started back with Mortal Kombat 11. I remember back in that game, that was like the first main like AAA fighting game to kind of introduce like refillable meter, and like more universal mechanics across this roster. But in Mortal Kombat 11, it wasn't received very well by its more hardcore fan base.
Yeah, and I remember that was actually the first fighting game I was able to do a midnight launch for because I was, I think, almost like second or third year into college. and it was a game I was super hyped for as well. And like you said before, it was not very well received by like the hardcore fan base, but it was something that introduced a lot of people to a newer mechanic that kind of seemed to be like the trend starter of what's going on today.
Yeah, very much so. I remember it was there was a lot of discourse behind it. Like for me, I like the idea. Um Mortal Kombat 11 it was a for me is a polarizing game in some aspects. Like I was getting back into Mortal Kombat after a bit of a hiatus because the last one I previously played really in depth was the rebooted one for the PS3 and the Xbox 360, Mortal Kombat 9. And 11 kind of took steps to kind of like simplify like all the crazy stuff that was possible in MKX, which is I can understand why some people were upset. You know, it took away stuff like running and like like air combos were kind of pared down, but like they introduced this new system to be able to appeal to like a wider audience and simplify the gameplay. But I think in their iteration of this core system, they went a little too far into dumbing things down. And for me, I've always kind of believed that like if you want to reach a casual audience, it's like mechanics play a role, but they're not the whole picture.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that is true. That is something we're gonna be speaking a little bit more later on. But yeah, you said you mentioned that the last one you played before MK11 was I think it's Mortal Kombat 9, the one that was on PS3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I I
I didn't get to play X a little too much because I at that time I didn't really have a console to play X. But yeah, I was very familiar with 9, but I did keep up with the competitive scene for X.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that was the game I played a lot on the Xbox. I think Xbox One. That was one of the main reasons I got an Xbox One. Well, me and my older brothers got an Xbox One. I played a lot of KI, Killer Instinct 2013, and I played a lot of MKX. MKX to me is one of my favorite games. I kind of like consider it kind of like the Third Strike and Garo of the series. I'm not sure if that's like a fair comparison to a lot of people, but it was a game that
I
had
mean,
like a lot of depth into it. They had like its variation, their EX meter, and it also had like combo breakers as well and running, and it gave a lot of freedom to like how do I say combo routes and juggles. Even though like most Mortal Kombat games, there's already like a preset like move list or preset like amount of combos you can do. This gave it a lot more freeform, but it was something that was played more on the hardcore scene than it was like on the casual scene. I mean, it was very big with casuals, but I would say the mechanics catered more to like the hardcore players that really wanted to learn the mechanics.
yeah, I totally agree with that. I did play it here and there at a buddy's house of mine, and then oh yeah, this is like they leaned into that hardcore direction. Um, and it's just a little funny, right? Because like with compared to Capcom and their games, uh, you know, Mortal Kombat tries to take a little more simplified approach because of how it was able to reach a more casual audience due to its like lore and mythology. So it's interesting to see them kind of go a little more hardcore, but I guess that kind of was like the style of the time. Um, you know, uh, we are still around a point in fighting games were still on a little bit more of the hardcore side. Like I would almost say like MKX is kind of like the Marvel 3 for NetherRealms.
Yeah, because like this is something that's gonna pop up like later too. Is a reoccurring topic of like very long combos and like just a lot of stuff that you're gonna need to like not like necessarily deal with, but it's something you're gonna have to like see and sit through for a lot of these games. But yeah, MKX I would say is like the more hardcore, like input heavy combo game. But what I think about that is that it was a lot more difficult to like try and do those combos. Although MK is like a more simpler fighting game. Not to say it's like an easy fighting game, but compared to the other ones, there's a lot less strict inputs and more easy to land combos. but it was a game that you had to still utilize your resource on really well, kind of like I said, Third Strike or Street Fighter 4. They had EX moves and they had like the X rays, which was like their version of supers, and they also had Combo Breaker, which I think was an MK9 as well. So you had to choose between what were you gonna do? Were you gonna EX like 3 times? Were you gonna save it up for the X ray, or were you gonna like I believe it was with 2 bars. Like while you're getting juggled, are you gonna risk it and take the combo breaker so you can return to neutral? But yeah, that
And
was the very last one because I think well after that there was Injustice 2, which was more similar to MKX, and then after that was MK11. But that was still the same story. You still had to like use your 1 meter like resourcefully, you know.
well, MK11 like kind of what it did was it changed up the formula for how we kind of use meter in fighting games. You know, like you said before, like defensive mechanics and stuff like that, they were always tied to 1 meter. And at the same time, I think that choice in how to use meter, and guys, keep in mind, I think that's gonna be the biggest talking point about tonight's stream is like how the change, how we've changed using meter in fighting games, and you know, like whether it's good to be able to kind of like let it rip from the beginning of a round, or like what cons it can kind of play into the game from both a casual and a hardcore perspective. I kind of like that MK kind of separated it into its own. MK11 separated it into its own thing, and I don't think people would have had been upset about it had they just not diluted some of the core gameplay. Um, I think their iteration on that system, you know, it just needed a little bit more testing. Because I did like how you had a defensive bar for defensive actions like wake up and breakaway, but the problem was, you know, like breakaway became like a selective thing. You know, like halfway through the game's lifespan, when characters had basically armor break combos that basically circumvented that, or like restand combos that circumvented that. And it was just a system that I thought had a lot of potential, but it just needed a little more tweaking. But back in that time, you know, NRS games, they didn't get a lot of time in the oven. Typically it was like essentially the game would have one wave of DLC, maybe two, and then you know you got a different NRS game.
Yeah, it'd be like next to like the next project, which after 11, a lot of people didn't know if it was going to be another Injustice game or MK, but as we saw, we got MK1. That could be another issue or topic addressed later. But yeah, that was, I would say, like the beginning of having all your resources like out and about. I think the last game I remember that could possibly I remember did something similar was like I believe Street Fighter Alpha 3 that had like Xism, Aism, and all that stuff. And I think one of them was like where you have the meter already full, or I could be wrong. I think it was all three of them. But once you used it, you kind of had to like rebuild it back up. Meanwhile, in MK11, it kind of just kind of like recharged. But also in MK11, I'd say it was a lot more tedious in my end because I remember playing that game and like you had to choose between your own custom layout. You had to like also like when your X-ray was saved to like the last part of your life bar, and you just had to like you said, you had to like you know watch out for like times where you can do breakaway, which is when you're getting juggled and you can like you use your defensive meter to like you know kind of roll down or roll away like after a wake up. But then also you had like EX meter that would refill like over time, but it'll be something that you would have to like kind of like risk it. Like if you wanted like EX guns for one of your characters, you would just have to like you said earlier, let it rip. But then again, that's also something that's like, well, if you use up all your meter like near the beginning, you're kind of like back into like a wall where you don't have a lot of resources as much as your opponent. But which that could be true for like most fighting games with meter.
Yeah, absolutely. Overall, it was a system. It was a change, and then like you know, but it just needed a little more time. Because again, the problem was everything was kind of centered on that system, and then the game just kind of just felt diluted. Like if we kind of want to maybe like fast forward a little bit, we can kind of talk about how like I think with Street Fighter 6, their implementation of this meter system that you have from the start, was a lot more well executed. I think obviously Capcom kind of saw what worked with MK11, and they made it their own thing while also making sure that you still had as much creativity to play the game the way you wanted, without feeling watered down to its previous entry.
Yeah, and to bring it back to MK11, I do remember one of the big issues from MK11 was like it was hopping off the back of. Let's just say you skipped over Injustice 2, but you played MKX, and a lot of people felt like the combo routes was a little bit longer, but you could do a lot more longer combos even without meter in MKX, while in MK11 was more of a neutral heavy game where almost every interaction you would not do like a really big combo like in MKX you could take someone to like the wall or to like mid screen, while MK11 it took a little bit more effort, but or any effort at all, because I remember you could do like 3 uppercuts, like 3 down hard punches in MKX like in the corner, while in MK11 you couldn't really do that. But that
Yeah,
yeah.
they're almost used purely as anti-airs in Mortal Kombat 11 as opposed to combo extenders, with the exception of maybe like 2 characters. I think they definitely went the direction of like I think around the late 2010s, developers had the mindset that if we just made the game easier and we take away the crazy stuff, more people are gonna play the game, and it's like, nah, that's not necessarily the case. Um, like there are certain games that did very well despite being pretty crazy. Simplification isn't inherently a bad thing if it's done well, but it shouldn't hurt, one side of your player base. And most of the time we've seen with simplification in these games that like it doesn't necessarily brings in a new audience. When you try to appeal to both sides, you don't really uh appeal to anybody. So yeah, I didn't like the simplification of these, essentially like how combos worked in like Mortal Kombat 11. Even though I did enjoy it on a casual level with my friends, but like playing online, it does feel like everybody's playing these characters the same, and like its core systems don't allow for as much freedom. Because I remember even in Injustice 2, I consider just Injustice 2 like a very projectile heavy game, so it's like it's hard for me to kind of compare it. But even then, in Justice 2, you did see a lot more variety in terms of how like somebody would play like Superman or like Supergirl or Batman.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have like all the meter out in like in the beginning. They would still have to build it up, so you had to find like ways to how to like find a way to get into your opponent, or like if you're gonna like use it for an EX, or you're gonna use it for a clash or other interactions. I think that could be a part like coming up, is that um we can move on to like the next topic, but um this was something that I thought was going to be a little bit controversial, was that there is going to be a discussion talking about like how the shift from gameplay like that, like the creativity and like the freeform expression, compared to like nowadays where it's a little bit more not as I'm not going to say nuanced, but not as creative, you know, where you can see a lot of people just doing a lot of like similar combos, or kind of just copying combo routes from other players, and then you just kind of see a lot of the same thing, and there's not a lot of variety in what you would see now, or what you would see back then compared to now. But yeah, should we move on to the second topic? Because I think that's what's gonna segue into our second talking point. But yeah, I guess from just talking about that, so MK11 was like a little bit more of the more defensive, like neutral play, but that is like a very big contrast to what we see nowadays. So I guess the second topic I'm gonna bring up is, or the one you wanted to talk about, was the shift to more offensive play due to the integration of these core systems. So do you want to start off talking about those? Uh-oh, I think the mic might have got cut off. Alright. Uh-oh, some technical difficulties. Wonder, Maximus, are you still in chat? I think the mic kind of got cut off. But yeah, guys, if you're just not tuning in, I am doing a collab stream with Maximus Z305. We are going to be talking about some mechanics in modern fighting games. And if you're just not tuning in, we're going to be going through like a list of different topics as well. Something might be up with the mic, I'm not sure. Uh-oh. USB audio. Probably just let some music play in the background until something's get. All right. Resting pepperoni to his mic down. But yeah, for everybody watching, feel free in chat. As soon as we get this fixed, you guys can put your 2 cents into the discussion as well. And yeah, just let everyone know we're gonna be doing this all night. This is gonna be the topic of the stream. But yeah. And there's a lot of viewers here tonight as well, so this is great. But I'll be communicating with Maximus right now on Discord. But what I will do, I will screenshot these talking points, and I think I'll add them on the live stream as well when they pop up. All right, maybe I'll just restart the call and see if that works. If not, we might have to All right, I think it's back up. Maybe. Yeah, it's usually not a Rick Rom live stream without some technical issues. That happens a lot on our end. It's cool though. We'll get it to work soon. Is it almost?
You hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Okay.
What the fuck?
Yeah, Discord is weird like that. I've had a lot of trouble with Discord in the past. I'm not really a big fan of it.
Okay. Maybe the next for the next one we could probably do like Teams or Zoom or some shit.
Teams or Zoom? I don't think I have either. I think Teams is on Google, right? Is it?
It's Microsoft.
Microsoft. But you're here. I think you're coming across right now, which is good. So maybe it was just like a mic issue.
Yeah, I probably was. I just unplugged my mic and replugged it in. So I guess that was probably it. Maybe?
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah. But
because it's like my PC can be a little retarded because of the fact it doesn't have an external. It doesn't have a speaker. Like the monitor itself doesn't have a speaker in it, so I use the headphones to listen, and I have my quadcast mic to talk. And sometimes I don't know, maybe if I move it improperly, or the microphone gets disconnected, even though it'll show it's still on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. We're still live. But yeah. Yeah, that usually happens. Yeah, because I had that same trouble too. Like on Discord, it'll read the output as like my Blue Yeti mic, and it's like I'm not trying to like hear it through the Blue Yeti mic because I don't even think there is audio coming out from a mic. But yeah, I think everything's up and about. Do you want me to like put up something on screen so that the viewers can like kind of follow our discussion, or?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. My bad. I kind of slacked on getting that footage. So like my bad.
Oh no, that's fine. I was just thinking I could just like screenshot your list of questions and then.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But
try to follow the chat with my phone.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, let me just go onto the OBS and just upload a screenshot of those talking points. Unless you don't want them on the capture, I can just leave them out. I can write it.
Just show like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either or. You can kind of show which one we're focusing on at like what point, or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Let me. But yeah, let's go. Okay, right here. There we go. I could probably just put that like on the corner up here, maybe. That way we don't have chat covered up. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
Okay. So we just did the first part. Let me just move the list over. So we're going to be on the second talking point. If I can shift this down. But yeah, so would you like to introduce the second talking point?
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about kind of like how these games have kind of shifted to more offensive play, due to the integration of these like core systems. I think the biggest change that everybody can kind of point to is Street Fighter Five. Um, Street Fighter Five definitely went for a way more unga bunga like aggressive style like system compared to four. I think four was very freeform in how you approach, but four was very much Street Fighter in the sense that it was a very much like we're playing checkers until we get like a chess move, you know. Where Street Fighter Five was just like, I'm throwing my checkers at your face.
Yeah, exactly. And I think back when it comes to like the aggressive, I remember playing Street Fighter Five, and everyone had like a mechanic which was V trigger, aside from their, how do I say, their like EX into super meter. Everyone had their own unique like gimmick.
And everybody had a V skill.
Oh yeah, V skill, and then they introduced like the second V skill later down the road, right?
Yeah, in season three of Street Fighter Five. Well, before I even jump there, like Street Fighter Five, in the beginning, in the first 2 years of the game's life, it was very much a Wild West situation of where like if your V trigger, if you had a good V trigger, you were just a good character. So I remember characters like Chun Li, had dominated at first. Cammy remained basically dominant until damn near the last season. Like good V trigger meant you were a good character, and if you didn't have a very good V trigger, you were a very bad trigger. And the V trigger system very much defined how Street Fighter Five was played, and most of the time it was the aggressive V triggers that were the good ones.
Yeah, and that was something that really turned me off of that game. Aside from like, well, let's say the other issues on top of the game, like the lack of arcade mode and story, and like just like content, and like how it felt like a rush game. I think that was more of a product of its rush like in gameplay, because like you said, it did come off of Street Fighter 4, where it felt like it was a little bit more, I would say, methodical in its gameplay, because it was a little bit more well thought out. While Street Fighter 5 felt like you said the Wild West, or like more like the black sheep of the series, because most Street Fighter games usually have like, how do I say this, like a mechanic, like a universal mechanic a lot of people had. While this one, everyone was kind of unique in their play style, but in a way where it's like it relied more on their gimmick than the actual gameplay.
Yeah, it relied more on the game's central gimmick, like the V trigger system. Not quite like, this at that point Street Fighter hadn't adopted Street Fighter 5 predated Mortal Kombat 11, so it didn't adopt the regenerative meter like system yet, but like very much was going in the direction of being a more aggressive game and through its centralized mechanic. And yeah, compared to 4, you definitely didn't always have to be aggressive to win. Even if I'm not necessarily counting Elena, like you could play Evil Ryu pretty defensively in Ultra Street Fighter 4, and you could still very much sweep people.
Yeah, exactly right. And even at high level plays, doing like combo extenders was something that you had to like kind of respect, and also very impressive, because it was really hard to pull off. I meant to say, it wasn't something that like almost anyone could do with the activation of like pressing hard punch and hard kick. You have to FADC cancel that stuff. Even then, it was still like a lot of work to like build up meter and get into those combo situations.
I believe around this time, like fighting games started entering a space of where the FGC started getting a lot more mainline attention, especially because like Street Fighter got on ESPN, and when you're opening this game to like a broader audience, people associate fighting games with like cool combos, so that's cool, instead of like if like a casual person sees like Street Fighter 4 and they see like a Ryu and a Akuma just throwing Hadokens for like 70% of the match they're like, this is boring, but it's like, you like hardcore fans understand, oh, this is like ballet, this is chess. One of them is throwing these fireballs just to see who makes a mistake, and then they're gonna capitalize. But like with a more casual audience, you need more dynamic and explosive moments
Yeah,
to be able to keep their attention.
yeah, exactly right. Because when I would say the casual audience, when they think combos, when they think fighting games, they think combos, which is like the most like famous word in fighting games aside from like Hadouken. But yeah, and I think what SF5 was doing around that time, I think they probably saw like the attention that the mainstream was getting, and I would also kind of like, I would probably go out on like a reach on a Dalsim style reach and say that maybe they're a little bit inspired by Killer Instinct 2013, because Killer Instinct kind of had the same, not the same type of mechanic, but something similar, which was their instinct, where everyone had their own unique install, I would say, and that's something I would argue that maybe SF5 kind of like got inspired by, where V Trigger was like their own version of Instinct, and I had like an inside joke with some people on Instagram. I would say V Trigger is just like the poor man's Instinct.
Honestly, I think that's spot on because yeah, it really is. I remember Instinct, but Instinct and like Killer Instinct, it was very much, it wasn't as dumbed down though.
Oh
and
yeah,
and Capcom was just, they wanted to try to broaden Street Fighter's like appeal, so they felt like if they dumbed down these systems, it was gonna bring in a more casual audience. But it's like it takes quite a few things to bring in a more casual audience. You gotta have good marketing, as well as like make sure you have good single player content, and make sure you just have proper systems to teach these players. Street Fighter 4 did amazing. It literally brought it didn't just bring the franchise back, it brought the fighting game
yeah, the
back.
entire genre.
and
Right?
and it's arguably the most mechanically dense Street Fighter game ever.
Yeah, because around that time the fighting games were like making a comeback right after SF4, and that's when you saw a lot of like IPs kind of like coming back, and
Yeah,
SF4 was a big milestone in the fighting game genre. But like you said earlier, that was a game where you wouldn't see a lot of offensive play, and when you did, it would be something that was like super high execution. And like you said earlier, we were talking about how, to like the well-trained eye like us who like fighting games, seeing like a bunch of like Hadouken clashes, to us that's like like that's high IQ level play. Well, to the normal person that is not into fighting games, maybe they're into other genres, they don't understand it as much. They just see two
yeah, they
dudes
find
throwing
it
fireball.
spammy. They're like, why are these guys just spamming like
Yeah.
fireballs? Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so fireballs are also hard for the casuals to pull off, but yeah, that is something that I remember showing some people in high school, like Evo clips of SF4, and they just were not getting it. But then, like, if you were to show someone like Marvel 3 and you see him do like all these like insane combos that says like
They're like, oh
100
my
hits,
god,
yeah.
what is that? Doom just took him across the screen.
Yeah. Like, whoa, what do you mean you can go over 100 hits, right? But
Yeah, Marvel was always the game that was easier to understand. And Capcom said they designed Marvel like that on purpose. It was more to, the Marvel IP in itself was just always going to bring more eyes to kind of Capcom, especially back in the day.
yeah, because
They
it was a big like even to this day it's still a big franchise and IP. And of course, like when you have like that casual audience, or you just have like the audience coming from like a different scene, or like just like more eyes onto it, you're gonna make things a little bit simpler. Which in Mars Capcom, around that time, they had super moves, but all you had to do was just do like a Hadouken with like two punches, and you do like a crazy like Kamehameha style like Hadouken. But when you would go and play Street Fighter or like Super Turbo, it'll be something you would probably have to like do a little bit more effort to execute that
Yeah.
input.
Street Fighter retained like it's a history of doing double motions.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely say Street Fighter was definitely the first game to really start this trend of like purely offensive based driven gameplay. We started after Street Fighter 5, we started seeing it a little bit more with certain games. Where like offense and spectacle started taking over, freeform expression, and as well as like defensive and methodical gameplay.
Mm.
You know, um, Tekken 7, came out not too long after Street Fighter 5. It didn't come out not too long. I believe it was like a year or two, 2 years after Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
it came out in arcades around the same time though. But Tekken 7 definitely went for also a more offensive gameplay approach compared to its predecessor, which already was trying to be slightly more aggressive. But like Tekken 7, defensive options felt even a little bit more lacking. I don't know if it was just me. I felt that way.
Mm. Um, for me, I would kind of argue that it'd probably be for me personally. I think I would kind of just argue it being around like maybe Marvel 3 or Killer Instinct, to do like the more like oppressive gameplay. But around that time, it was a little bit more execution heavy, more input heavy. I still would like to say that maybe KI kind of inspired these games coming forward, because when you think KI, you think like Ultra Combo and all these big, giant, heavy combos. But the gameplay in that game was a little bit more thought out, and I would say a little bit more balanced, because they had ways to like counteract like your opponent from being super aggressive. That's always been like the thing since the beginning of the franchise of KI. And when they brought it back to the Xbox version, I think that was a little bit thought out and built upon, because you had instinct, right? Like I said earlier, but in that game, everyone has a universal mechanic of combo breakers, counter breakers, shadow counters, and like just different ways to like open up your enemy, and you don't have to eat like the other person's combo, as opposed to like a couple years earlier there was Marvel 3, and that's a game where it's like everyone's like it's known to be like the biggest, like, how do you say it, like TOD combo game. And then you
Yeah,
have,
yeah, almost every character can kind of one tap you.
yeah, and then they introduced X Factor, which is for me, I
Yeah,
would think that was like the maybe like a little bit of the trend starter of the comeback mechanic, aside from 4's like revenge meter, like when you're like almost about to die. But those again were high risk, high reward stuff. You don't just press X Factor and win. Although that's the meme, right, in the game, where Virgil goes into X
yeah,
Factor, put your controller down, or restart the match. But it's still something you have to like work for, you know.
that's true. That's true. It's a funny misconception. Like people that haven't played Marvel 3 still don't understand. Like yeah, X Factor is absolutely busted. Like in as much as I love Marvel 3, I have my problems with X Factor, but it
Mm.
still isn't truly the win button most people think it is. You still kind of have to play around how you're gonna use it, because sometimes if you use it wrong, then you basically just wasted it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you still have to know like the knowledge of like your characters, your assists, and like the combo routes. Like I forgot who was it. Like in high level play, they had Jean turn into Phoenix with, I think they did X Factor, or
F
she
champ,
goes into level 5 in air,
F
and then
champ.
fucking Frank West does his anti air super. And I'm like, oh shit, that's hype, you know.
Oh yeah, the anti Phoenix tech.
Yeah, I'm like, oh shit, because like if you press X Factor, you're like, oh fuck, you're fucked. But if you have that fighting and like chance and will to do it, man, it opens up the hype moments, you know.
Yeah, people started figuring out like defensive ways to use X Factor, like for situations like that. Like situations in staying alive and stuff like that. Um, that's yeah, Spectacle definitely started taking over these fighting games like in like the 2010s. But like I like to kind of go back into like kind of offensive plays. Like I think with Street Fighter 6, they kind of started to nail the balance a little bit better.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. They use kind of like SF5 as like the learning ground. You know, they took a lot of feedback from the community, and that is something that helped build upon what they were going to use essentially for the next game.
yeah, absolutely. Street Fighter 6, it's still very much into the direction of spectacle and like bombastic, but like Street Fighter 6, Capcom chose to improve those systems by centralizing them into the drive system, and I think this is like where the meat and potatoes of tonight's live stream is gonna kind of come into, like where we talk about kind of like SF6, Tekken, and City of the Wolves. They've essentially created decentralized system of where like you have very strong offense, but you do have defense, but typically offense tends to be key. Um, Street Fighter 6 and Street Fighter 6's case, the drive system kind of homogenized like what was done in Street Fighter 5, but they brought back creativity, you know, compared to Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5 had no real variety or real spice until like maybe season 3 when the arcade edition came out, when they added characters got reworked and they got like a second V skill, and then like in season 5 or season 4 they gave everybody a second V trigger, and that's when the game started opening back up again. It was like, oh yeah, there's freedom, and like because people have second options for V triggers, and a lot of characters second V triggers are pretty good. It didn't just feel like, oh, you're just whoever has the better V trigger wins. It feels like there was more methodical choice, and Street Fighter 6 chose to expand that and kind of in the right direction, despite a few issues with the drive system. But yeah, but I think one issue we can kind of still lobby towards, like, the system is sometimes it still feels not quite as bad as Street Fighter 5, where it's like I'm throwing checkers at you, but it's like I'm pushing the board at you, and I don't have to work as hard to get that checkmate moment.
Yeah, exactly. And would that segue into our next topic?
How do these core systems compare to the previous mechanics, especially when it comes to playing around that meter build? It's complicated. This one's a little more it's kind of a bit of a nuanced take.
Yeah, well, now that you read it, well, we can go back to the last one, and we were talking about like the offensive play. Still, when it came to those older games, like when it came to like Marvel, KI, Street Fighter 6, not Street Fighter 6, Street Fighter 5, and a little bit like before that, there's some games in between. There was like this effort of like you still had to like build up to your meter. Even in Street Fighter 5, you had to like build up your. I believe you have to build up your V trigger with V skill, right?
V skill was. I don't think V skill cost any meter, from what I remember.
But they had their own like Ryu had his parry, right, which would build up to like his V trigger, or like you wouldn't get it right off like the round start.
Yeah, you wouldn't get it off round start. It was V skills, like they were very unique. They didn't require meter. They actually helped build meter. Ryu especially, Ryu and Gil, characters that had like parries, they definitely helped them build way more meter than other characters.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was that, for those of you guys who don't know, Street Fighter 5 was kind of like the turning point in my, how should I say, Street Fighter journey or fighting game journey, where I'm like, I kind of walked away from the franchise. I wasn't really super heavy into it. My brother was the one that was more into it. He bought a whole PS4 for Street Fighter 5, so I'm not really familiar with a lot of it. I did remember buying my own PS4 later in college and buying like the final edition of Street Fighter, and I played it a little bit here and there. But from what I do remember was that is like something that still kind of like retained a little bit of the older mechanics, like the Super and EX meter. That was still something you would build up regardless of like a V trigger or a V skill that kind of helped you out. Get it? You still want to get everything like around start. I remember I do believe the V skill was like the one thing you would have like starting off. Like Ryu would still be able to like parry, right? And then Alex could, I think he had like the whole clothesline V trigger and stuff, or he had his own version of parry. But
Ken, everybody had like something. Like Ken had a command run, or you can choose to use his basically his circus kick, or like Chun-Li had Serenity Stream.
Oh, okay.
Like, everybody kind of had their thing, and then Street Fighter 6. I'm gonna go with the take that I do like these newer systems a little bit more. I do think they still offer that creativity and fun, but like I think City of the Wolves jumping I'm gonna jump into City of the Wolves a little bit for this part right here. I
Mm-hmm.
think City of the Wolves handles its central system a little bit better. And actually that's gonna come with the fact that it's newer, so they probably saw what Street Fighter 6 did and was like, let's not go as balls to the walls with this, but in
Yeah.
City of the Wolves, you overheat faster than like you would burn out in Street Fighter 6 for sure. I've
Oh
noticed
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right, exactly. Because we played. Well, I played a little bit of it last night, and coming from the beta to like now, you do go into like I would say overheat. I'm gonna call it burnout because that's essentially what it is. You would go into like
Yeah, that's fine.
um, into burnout slash overheat a lot faster than you would in Street Fighter Six, but they don't really take away a lot. Like in Street Fighter Six, you do get chip damage if you take off like if you use up all your drive meter and stuff, and you could even get like how do I say stunned out if you get like a drive impact like towards the wall. Meanwhile, in City of the Wolves, you still have like the old like core mechanics like chip damage, while you're like still like fighting against a character, and you don't really get like how do I say burnout or exhausted and take extra damage like you would in Street Fighter Six. It still feels like you're playing neutral, you know.
City of the Wolves goes for the '90s approach of still having like the guard crush mechanic. So when you are in burnout slash overheat, it's like you know you can kind of just unload pressure. I kind of like this defense. I know like and damn man, I'm hoping in season 3 like the drive gauge in Street Fighter 6 kind of just gets like either a revamp, primarily like a bit of a nerf. But like I think something's got to change a little bit. Like how in Street Fighter 6, like some characters straight up have frame traps for drive impact in the corner. Like and it's a little
Yeah,
oppressive. Like Cammy's is kind of some of the most degenerate shit I've ever seen. Like I think it's what like it's a 2 frame window
yeah,
for Cammy in the corner. Um, Basically can essentially guarantee a burnout in the corner. And I like how City and the Wolves like. I was a little weird. I'm like, why did you guys keep the guard meter? I'm surprised you didn't just go balls to the walls and copy Capcom. But like, I think it was a good choice because now I'm just not gonna get my back blown out in the corner if like I'm in burnout in City of the Wolves compared to
yeah,
Street Fighter. Like, it's like okay, like they can guard crush me, but they definitely got to work for it a little more, even if I'm in burnout. And for Street Fighter 6, if I'm in that corner and I'm burned out, I'm toast. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was one of the big reasons why I kind of like stepped away from Street Fighter Six was just the amount of like oppression in that game, and then it's like I felt like I was being a little bit how do I say not rewarded punished for like trying to do everything I can to fight against this player who's just being super oppressive. He's doing drive rush, he's doing drive impacts, he's doing cancels, and then all of a sudden I'm in burnout because I try to do like two EX Hadoukens in raw and like raw EX Hadoukens, and then I'm like trying to like block everything he's doing, and then I'm in the corner. I'm in burnout already, and I don't know what's going on. It just gets a little too oppressive here in SF6.
yeah,
And
I'm hoping.
compared to like the older games where it's like you still felt like you had a fighting chance and other things weren't being taken away from you.
But overall, this is nothing. Street Fighter 6 is nothing compared to like Tekken Season
Oh
2.
god, yeah, we'll get into that later. I have my opinions on that.
Oh my
But
god,
but yeah,
where that
we could get back into the we were on topic 3, right? Or were we on topic 4?
yeah, how they kind of compare to the previous entries. I think we kind of talked a lot about that. You said you saw the Street Fighter the Third Strike Garo video,
Mm.
and like, and how I basically said in that video that like these modern games they do feel like the continuation of what those entries in this franchise tried to do. They're trying to push them forward. They're definitely they're definitely the most new that these franchises have seen. You know, what Fatal Fury obviously because it hasn't seen a game in 26 years, but for Capcom, you know, they very much went into like we're gonna do something completely different. Just like Third Strike was like we're trying to do something completely different,
Mm,
as well as trying to push the characters further and progress their story.
yeah.
You know, um, but meter build in general, I guess it's in certain situations it's gonna be subjective.
Yeah.
Um, how you feel, whether you prefer it or not, but it definitely seems like overall, like the trend is like people kind of do mess with these with the regenerative meter overall, but it just has to be done properly. Like MK11 definitely I think was the launching ground for it, but like it did not have enough time in the oven. Street Fighter 6 is definitely going in the right direction, but like I think the drive system just needs to be toned down a tad.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm more on the take of where, but like you said, some people do mess with it. For me, I do kind of like prefer having the build meter back then because I like playing like Third Strike and Garo. But with Third Strike, in order to build meter to like be able to even do EX or to do EX or like do your supers, you have to build meter. And how you did that was like by like whiffing a lot of moves or like just landing a lot of moves in general. Kind of like be a little bit rewarded for like the way you played, but at the same time it was super not super high risk high reward. That's more like the parry system in Third Strike, but you have to use it out like how do I say methodically, or you have to actually like plan out your things. You can't just like just have all your random bullshit go and then have like a winning chance. Like, am I gonna go for Gen Engine with my small ass meter for Yoon, or am I gonna do like two EX like what's it called shoulder moves that he does, the Shoryuken input, and am I gonna like try to get two like hit confirms off of that, you know? But it is something I do kind of prefer having. Your fighting game build like meter through, basically by yourself. MK11 did have that, but also the problem, like you said, it needed to have a little bit more time in the oven. But also, like, if you're gonna have all that meter, maybe it'd be a better idea just to be able to like build it back once you use it, instead of having to wait for it as like you try to in like newer video games. Also, MK11 was also like a mixed bag, was because there wasn't a lot of big crazy combos. It was something you had to play a little bit more defensively, even though they give you tools to try and be a little bit more aggressive or to do more EX moves, but it wasn't like super like crazy like you see now with SF6, Tekken 8, and to an extent Fatal Fury.
I think like I said, I'm a little more on the side of I do like these regenerative systems, as long as they're kind of done well. I think in City of the Wolves, it's definitely done the best.
Yeah,
Out of the newer games, it's done the best because especially because like compared to the beta, they've definitely tweaked some things. The rev system isn't like it fills up way a little bit faster compared to the beta. I've noticed that, and the damage was toned down, so it doesn't feel as unga bunga.
mm-hmm.
It does feel like now you kind of have to really make that choice. Are you really gonna go for that crazy combo, especially if you're not in the SPG state? Like I like that Fatal Fury kind of brought back more of the methodical thinking from Garo, so it doesn't feel as much of an unga bunga system. And the now it feels like it almost does feel like if you're gonna spend this meter, like understand, like you might not see it back for a little while.
Yeah, and you can play neutral a little bit better, in order for in order for you to survive around a little bit. But for me, what I think about it, well, I'll let you finish up your statement. But I think it's it's something that you have to like. Now playing it, it does feel a little bit better compared to the rest. Sorry, I'll let you finish here.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I was just saying, I love Street Fighter 4, how meter worked in that game because like you had the ultra system. Like, my thing is like sometimes it's like when EX and Super are connected to the same resource, it's like you don't get to see as much spectacle as you could, or like it doesn't feel as fun sometimes. Like I like Third Strike, but certain characters, like you're not gonna see some of the coolest things you could see if like because of the fact that like both resources are tied to one bar, and like like for Ryu, right? Ryu has two supers that are both one bar supers. So and Ryu has two pretty good supers in Third Strike. He has Shin Shoryuken
Mm-hmm.
and he has Denjin Hadoken, but those are one bar supers. So you're not gonna really get the opportunity to actually combo into them off of some of his, and he has good EX moves. So you're definitely gonna be in the position of where you're gonna have to choose the trade off of like, okay, am I gonna reuse like good EX moves, to kind of like push in neutral or get good combo damage, or am I gonna try to save that meter for the super, and it's kind of like I don't necessarily think one way of doing it is better. Like regenerative meter is better, or like having to work for the meter is better. Because even in these modern games, you still have to work for your super meter.
Mm.
But I appreciate what each game tries to do on its own thing. With Third Strike, you definitely were making a choice with some characters, and nowadays, like you still have to make a choice, but you have the option to kind of make something happen, and because like that resource is always going to kind of come back to you.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying too as well, because I think when you were bringing up that topic, I think more of like MKX, MK9, where a lot more people at higher level play would rather do their EX moves and then save it for the X-ray, which is why in MK11 X-rays were saved for like near the end of your life bar, and that didn't take.
They were the comeback mechanic.
Yeah, the comeback mechanic. But going back to Third Strike, the thing is that I do appreciate Third Strike a little bit more compared to like SF6 is that your parry is something that you have to master, and if you can get by with it, you can like maybe not use as much meter. It's something you do have to master, because you see that high level play. You're gonna see a lot of EX moves, but you're also gonna see a lot more people trying to parry and read their opponent a little bit more. And in SF6, parry is universal to everybody, but not in the way it is in Third Strike, where you have to tap forward and time it right. Parry is tied to the drive impact and drive rush, and you have to hold it down. If not, you lose like your drive meter. But in Third Strike, if you can play your cards right, you can have you can parry your opponent and still have your like super if you decide not to go for the EX. But it really just, for me, it comes down to like how you use your resources and how you can land it against your opponent. If you can read it and like open up your opponent or like parry your opponent throughout the round, and you can save up your meter, and then you can like pull off like the Ryu, let's say Shoryu into Shin Shoryuken. That's like really hype. It really does come down to like the core mechanics or like the core gameplay beforehand.
And yeah, I totally agree. And like how it's designed around. At first, I did feel like parry in Street Fighter 6 was a little bit tacked on. I would have preferred that, like, it's like, if you guys are gonna just add parry back, like, make me feel like I earned it. Though.
Yeah.
Like, and they try to circumvent that by nerfing parry, but then it's like, okay, so now parry doesn't feel as good, and some people still feel like parry is, should still kind of get nerfed. Yeah, so it's like, I think definitely, and in that aspect, Third Strike kind of has SF6 beat a little bit. The systems felt a little more methodical and rewarding.
Yeah,
so to speak.
but the thing is too with Third Strike is that it took like 3 games to build up to that. The EX meter didn't really get introduced until Second Impact. Parries were always there since the beginning, but it wasn't as refined as it is in Third Strike. So SF6 still has time to like grow. It's just like we're still in the early stages of it.
Yeah, very much so. I'm hoping with season 3, they have some type of shape up with the drive system. And as well as I'm also with everybody. We need to get rid of throw loops. I don't understand why we're still doing this.
Yeah, and Ken is like the biggest like culprit of that, right? Well, in my case, I remember playing a lot of ranked, and I would go through like Ken and Cammy throw loops. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah, I'm a Ken player.
I have
Yeah.
not touched Ken at all since that game came out.
I love Ken, man. I play him in every game.
I,
He's my
I
main in Third Strike.
I love Ken too, but
Ken,
I'm like the on the contrarian. I'm like, yeah, if you play Ken, you're easy mode, but I know there's a skill to Ken as well.
my friend says the same shit. It's like, like Ken players are degenerates. They're brainless, and I'm like, well, damn. He's like, no, you're different though. You play Chung Li. You know,
Yeah,
so you're a good person. You balance out. You play the charge
yeah.
with the Unga Bunga.
If you really want to be the master, you gotta play a charge character, man. You gotta have extreme patience for that.
Charge characters are starting to die off now.
I know, that's the sad thing too, and that was the thing that was scaring me a bit in SF5, was like trying to play Vega, and he's like the biggest, like one of the big charge characters in like Street Fighter Legacy, and then all his moves are quarter circle. Same thing with Charlie or Nash is what they call him. I'm like, oh my god, what a deviation to those characters.
Well, I believe in Japan, he was always called Nash.
Oh yeah,
He was always called Nash in Japan. But yeah, yeah. And City of the Wolves, like Kain is a charged character, but like he's not like the same way he used to be, like in Garo.
mm-hmm.
Like his Schwartz Flamme.
Yeah,
I believe it's emotional, and I'm like, no, you betrayed me. Like, why?
yeah. All those years of practicing it, man. Could you imagine like having them do that to like SF6 Guile? You know, like having a projectile clash with a Ryu. Man, that was like skill. Now, if they could change it to like a quarter circle, man, that's just like anybody else.
Guile's like the only true survivor, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, Chun Li to a degree.
I
Those kind of a charge character.
would, I would probably say maybe like Ash and Hydern in KOF 15. But it took him forever to make a comeback though.
Yo, Ash is disgusting in KOF 15.
Oh
Like,
my
his,
god, I know this guy named Laddie on Instagram, I'm subscribed to his channel, but he's insane with Ash, and like, dude, if you fight a good Ash, man, you just have to respect it.
That shit is insane. That install is ridiculous. I'm surprised it never even got like nerfed.
Yeah. But
It led to so many TLDs. Like Ash as anchor was mad strong in that game.
bro, for real, just insane. KOF 15 is another game that I was mixed on, but I still felt it had the essence of like an older fighting game. Aside from like the auto combos, I thought like having to build up your meter and choose your characters from point, middle, and like who's going to be your anchor, and also like when are you going to use max mode. That was something that kind of felt like old school, but at the same time also felt like something that was pretty new as well, because
Yeah,
it was high risk, high reward for max mode.
especially because you got more bar as you lost more characters.
Yeah.
So, as KOF 15, I love that game. I have the deluxe. I have the collector's edition. Like I'm very nerdy with like I love SNK fighting games. They it's very it hurts me because like I'm like damn man, that SNK didn't like make as big as a splash as it should have.
Yeah.
In the United States and Mexico, it's huge.
Oh yeah,
in
tell
Latin
me
America.
about it. I'm Mexicano too, so I know all about that.
All about that. The whole history of like the arcade cabinets and like
The legacy.
all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah. KOF 15 it definitely SNK were still developing fighting games with a bit of a 90s mindset.
yeah.
There was a kind of like a lack of content as well as like the auto combo was so tacked on. It was guys, it was like I'd rather you just not have put it in there. Like
Yeah, and that's something I thought they would take off because it was in KOF 14, and I was like, okay, just give me back like 3 jabs and I'll be okay. But they still stuck to it, and I'm glad they didn't do that anymore past 15.
yeah, I think they saw what Street Fighter did and was like, all right, let's try that alternative control scheme idea,
Yeah.
which is a good idea,
And
stuff like that is always a good idea when you kind of keep what appeals to legacy players and then like still add something new to help like newcomers, instead of just taking away what legacy players like.
yeah, exactly. And I think that can lead into number 4 on the list, and I'll have that on screen as soon as I can like alt shift it. But would you mind reading that out while I fix this up?
Of course. So, what can developers do to better balance these systems? You know, um, I feel like this is almost a good time to talk about Tekken 8. You know, I've been
Yeah.
fiending for it.
um,
Man.
I'll let you go first because I feel like we're gonna have a lot of discussion on Tekken 8.
Man, Tekken 8, it's weird, right? So
Yeah.
my favorite Tekken game, actually, matter of fact, is actually Tekken 3.
Oh, I love Tekken
Oh,
3. Yeah.
that was the first one. I found it so fun. I played the fuck out of that game on the PS1,
That was my
and
first
then like,
Tekken game, dude.
I love it. And Tekken 3 felt like, you know, they definitely they nailed it. It's still timeless. That
Yeah.
balance of like fun offensive play, not too unga bunga. Tekken definitely went in the direction of each game they were gonna try to push offense a little bit more, whether that was through the use of environments or kind of like expanding like how like routes worked. But like Tekken 8, they introduced the heat system.
Oh
That's
god.
Tekken 8's core system mechanic, and I was like, oh, so this is kind of like a Street Fighter 6 like drive system, right? And at first season one, it was like the heat system. It was like, nah, this is very apparent. This is very strong, and there's not a lot of ways to work around the heat system. Essentially, you're not playing Tekken 8 unless you're using the heat system. You're not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt that too. I would say it started off in Tekken 7 when they introduced like armor moves, Rage Drive, and then the Rage Art. But it didn't get until super crazy when it came out until Tekken 8, you know? And that is something that's like going to be like a nightmare to talk about, regardless if you're online or playing it in person. It feels like something that they thought was fun on paper, but once you get to playing it, it just feels like super overwhelming. Like if you thought SF6 was like super like oppressive when it came to the mechanics, it has nothing against Tekken 8, man.
Absolutely. It was just like, it's weird. It's like, bro, it just feels like Tekken 8 is like, it keeps some of the stuff I like about the stuff I like about Tekken 7, but it's just like, well, I'm just throwing the chessboard at your face, bro. Like we're not playing for like methodical thing. I'm just throwing at you. We're not even gonna like pretend. I'm just gonna throw the chessboard at your face, bro. It's just like, damn, heat engagers, all of that. It was OD, and so like,
Yeah.
now we're gonna get to the elephant in the room. It's like, oh yeah, season 2. Harada's like, we're gonna try to expand the offensive mechanics because we see what the community's been saying. The heat system is a little too overwhelming. And then season 2 happened, and oh my god.
That was it was literally like the opposite of what everybody wanted. I did boot up season 2 um I think about like a few days ago because I
You're
stopped
brave.
I stopped yeah, exactly. I wanted to jump into the fray. But I stopped playing Tekken 8 season 1. I think like about a few months ago around the same time I dropped SF6. And I was a Xiaoyu player. I changed from being a Xiaoyu player. I was a Jin player, but then everyone kept like um saying how OP he was, and I was like, oh, he's broken and all this stuff. Although Jin has been my main since forever, but I just could not keep up with the game. I thought it was just like everyone else's character was like the best. I was fighting like Brian's and Azucena's, Victor's, and all this stuff. And then come to Twitter or X, people say Jin is the most broken character, and I'm like, dude, I can't find that. Which I guess I can kind of agree that he does have a lot more bullshit in this game than he did in 7. But it was like it really came down to like you're not really fighting the player or their character. You're fighting like the
You're fighting
mechanics.
the heat system.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
fighting the heat system. Like Jin is definitely strong. The Mishimas typically are pretty strong in
Mm.
Tekken, but like definitely the most broken Mishima at launch, was Reina.
Oh yeah.
Uh, she was definitely the most broken. But like, yeah, the season 2 was supposed to address the fact that there was no defensive play. You know, you were basically going to challenge heat system or you were going to lose. And I when I first saw season two, like I didn't even notice it because like I Tekken 8 kind of like dropped off my radar. Like people were talking about season 2 and I wasn't really paying it no mind. So my friend told me, "Bro, season 2 is a joke." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And then he showed me the clip of Jack and I was like, "Oh my
Oh
god.
shit, yeah.
Oh, what is happening?" I'm like, "Is this April Fools? Like it's got to be April Fools. This isn't real."
Yeah.
You know, it was the beginning of April. I'm like, "This has got to be a joke. There's no way that like they said they were gonna add more defensive like mechanics, and then they just made it, you know, the rainbow. They just made it Rainbow Tekken 8 Rainbow
Yeah.
Edition.
The Rainbow Edition, yeah, I like that. Cuz
Like,
I mean, I started feeling that too like near the end of the first season cuz they introduced Clive, and it's like once you're already fighting the mechanics of the game and like the characters, they introduced the first guest character that we all knew was going to come into Tekken eventually, but we did not expect this crazy creature in the game.
oh man, I'm in tears right now. It was
Yeah.
just like when Clive came out, I was excited because you know I'm a fan of Final Fantasy 16. I was like, oh, okay, Clive. You know, we were all hoping for Tifa, but you know, Clive
Yeah.
is pretty dope. You know, I like Final Fantasy 16, and I saw what Clive can do, and I was like, oh no, he doesn't even need the heat
Yeah,
system.
because he already is Heat. You know, he's fucking doing all his crazy shit that he wants to do, you know?
I
And
was like, yo, I am like, you know, that defense patch is coming with season 2. It'll be all right, and then April came, and you know, like Harada is like,
yeah.
uh,
Because even going back to like season 1, like this is the mistake I did with most modern fighting games was trying to play without their I would say gimmick, when Street Fighter 6 comes out, I'm gonna try to play it like Third Strike. I'm just gonna parry and do like like 3 hit combos and outplay my opponent, and I probably won't even need to drive impact or drive rush. And then like the first few weeks, I just couldn't like keep up with anybody, man, because you do have to learn how to do like drive rush, drive cancels, drive impacts, and all that stuff. And then when Tekken 8 comes out, I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna try to play it like I did in Tekken 7, where I'm not gonna do Rage Art. I'm gonna go for Rage Drive, which I think was a better mechanic than Rage Art. Come to see, yeah, you can't play Tekken 8 without doing your heat engagers or heat, or like just even being in heat in general, because you're gonna get punished for not using it, you know. And that was their core idea coming into this game, and it's like oppression is going to be something that you're going to have to deal with in most of these games, but it wasn't to an extent that it got super crazy in Tekken 8, where it's like, well, you thought all these mechanics were crazy, well, now let's activate God mode, you know. Now you get to have everything, and you're going to force your opponents into 50-50s as well, and if you guess wrong, that's like half your meter, or that's half your bar, you know.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tekken. You know, the funny thing is like, yeah, I feel like the drive system got to get toned down. And Tekken 8 is like, you know, the heat system. Yeah, they need to add like at least 2 defensive mechanics to help counteract getting basically rushed down by the heat system because it just feels like a dude with a big truck in an anime is coming to run me over and I can't escape. And
Yeah, exactly, right. And like I play around. I call it God mode because it's like once you press that button, man, you're blocking for dear life. You're not gonna like you're not gonna try and risk it, and you're gonna have to try and guess right. Because if you don't guess right, Kazuya is gonna hell sweep you into like his devil form. You're gonna eat that damage, you know.
absolute madness.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then you get punished for blocking as well, and then they had that patch notes where it's like, well, if you break King's throw, which is already a hard thing to break, you know, because you're gonna be eating like at least 2 of his throws in that like chain throw, you're gonna get chip damage for guessing right, and it's like, whoa, what's going on, man? Am I getting punished for playing right? So that's like insane to me, you know.
you know, like being that we're still on first, like, you know, sometimes I'm wondering, is it just like should the developers look at inherently just nerfing these systems or just adding or reinforcing the defensive mechanics they have to kind of help balance them?
Yeah, That's the question, right? Because we're living through it, and I'm not sure how a lot of these developers are going to be fixing these issues, or they're just going to let it simmer and just like let it play out how it is now. With Third Strike, when you play like was it New Generation and Second Impact, you still choose like your supers, but the parry system wasn't as good, and it took like different like times and variations for it to get a little bit better. I feel like they are gonna have to add some more mechanics later, because you can't just go back and like just revert heat into something you earn. It's already something that's built inside the game. As much as I would like it to be like something you earn, it'll probably just turn out like Soul Calibur 6, where everyone's just doing their supers, and then everyone's just pulling off armor moves and all that stuff. But I'd say the thing that they could do to balance out Tekken 8 for now is probably just get rid of chip damage. I know it's been in other games before, but it was something you turned on like in like the options. But I would say, man, if you're not even like guessing right, if you're doing the right options like blocking low and mid and breaking throws, that you don't really deserve the chip damage. Especially in a game like Tekken, it's different compared to like a game like Street Fighter or KOF, where like chip damage has always been a thing, or even to like Mortal Kombat. But like when it comes to Tekken, it's something that you have to like, I would almost say get rid of, because that's really oppressive. Because once Kuma goes in the heat and he just starts clawing at you and half your life bar is down, and you guess wrong by him just like toe tapping you, you lose all that life bar for like basically nothing.
Yeah. They definitely need Tekken 8, the problem is very obvious. It's just like they need to try to balance whatever patch they have planned to cook up. It needs to kind of go into helping defensive play, because Tekken 8 definitely is the case of like on the bar of where like, oh no, this system is absolutely too far. It has to get toned down, whether you're gonna add more defensive mechanics to balance out, or you're just straight up gonna nerf the heat system.
Yeah,
You know,
it's gonna have to go like either way, man. Because the way it's going right now, a lot of people are just not happy with the game, and some characters are just gonna thrive more than others. It's gonna become an even more broken like Marvel 3, where you're gonna see the same characters at high level play or just online, because they just do what every other character does, but better and more efficiently, and it favors them more than like someone else in the roster that can't do as much.
yeah, absolutely. And in the case of Street Fighter, I would say Street Fighter kind of, aside from throwing away, getting rid of throw loops, the drive system just got to see some type of rework. I think that's the thing with Street Fighter 6 more, is just like there's no shakeup. It needs a bit of a shakeup. Like whatever they have planned for season 3. I hope like the system gets a rework. Maybe not necessarily a nerf, but a rework in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
Because like people, the thing with Street Fighter 6, I would say part of the reason is like people, aside from hating throw loops, people are just kind of like a little bit bored.
yeah. I would say so too. I was a little bit bored, like halfway through like the second season. Like I played through Terry, right, and then I saw like almost everybody was kind of doing the same, like not the same but similar combos with Terry with all the EX moves, and it just kind of like I just kind of fell off of it. I think what it needs is a little bit more variety, and maybe we got a hint of that near Elena's trailer. Have you seen Elena's trailer?
Elena's trainer.
Yeah. Where at the end
Actually,
you can hear like do healing.
I heard that she has the healing thing. I didn't see the whole trailer.
Uh,
I heard that she has it, so I'm kind of like,
yeah. So let's hope if that is like an extra super, whether it be like her level 2 or like another like level for her. Let's just hope that it kind of segues into the next season, which is what we saw with, like you said earlier, SF5. Maybe everyone's gonna get something new in this game. Maybe we'll get a second like super for, or like a second level 3 for everybody, or like a new ways to play the game. Kind of like when Tekken 8 got like new, everyone got new moves, but you can't really tell because everyone's like doing their heat engagers in heat mode and all their fucking crazy bullshit. But yeah, that's yeah, Yeah, that's something I hope that does change later for SF6. Like you said, maybe just give it a little bit more variety, maybe a little bit more things to do. And for me, for Tekken 8, man, what they can do to balance the systems, I would say, like, you're gonna have, like you say, you're gonna have to either nerf heat or tone down, like, the damage, and, like, you're gonna have to, like, really not rework the entire system, because that's almost, like, impossible. If you do that, you're gonna have to make a new game. But they're gonna have to, like, investigate, like, who is super repressive, you know? Like, Lars is really dominant right now, because he's just doing his crazy flips and going crazy on everybody, you know? But yeah, what they can do for me, in my opinion, what they can do for Tekken 8 is either probably have like another defensive option, maybe like a push block, maybe like do it like in Marvel, like a push block, but it takes away from your heat. Or they
That'd
can
be
just,
interesting.
or they could do like maybe like a combo breaker, like maybe you can use your heat like to like do like some sort of combo breaker. I don't know, because like the way this game is, like your opponent can take one round off of you while they're in heat, and then like you have your heat available, but you can't do it because he's just juggling you from mid screen to the wall and then doing crazy combos, and then that's over. You know, you can't even get up in some interactions.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's something they're gonna have to figure out, man. Because the way it is now, man, it's just it's too much, too oppressive.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Godspeed to them.
Yeah,
You know, I wonder. Um, I mean, these games have been doing pretty well. You know, it's definitely in their interest to try to fix these things.
yeah.
Um, you want to move on to like the next one? What was it, 5?
Yeah. Do you still want me to play some music in the background, or?
Sure, sure.
Okay. While I get that set up, for those of you guys joining in, we're doing a live stream. We're having a discussion, debate with a special guest on the channel, and we're going to be talking about fighting games tonight and the core central mechanics of modern fighting games. So, while that happens, I'll just read a little bit of chat while I fix the next question. Or we can save that a little bit after some of these. But
Sure.
yeah, okay. So let me let me read off the next question then. What impact do you think these systems have had on newcomers? And let me fix up this thing. Okay.
Wait, somebody said rank these 5: B Jenny, Angel, King, Vice, Blue Mary. I'll rank these 5 KOF characters.
I assume for like best girls probably.
For me, I think my best girl is Blue Mary. I always like playing as Blue Mary.
I think Chizuru solos all. I like.
You like Chizuru?
I love Chizuru. But in gameplay, I think the best like one I had like a lot of fun out of those 5 is probably King. I just like her gameplay a little bit more. Angel's a little bit hard to play for me.
Yeah, you gotta be like a specialist to play as Angel. The Uncaged series moves, those things are like a lot of work to figure out. If you're a dedicated specialist, you probably love that character though. Aside with the fan service.
Yeah, and Vice, I do like Vice, but I just don't really play her that much. My favorite KOF girl, well, just in general, is just Chizuru, but like my favorite one to play is Elizabeth in KOF 15. She just feels so like more freeform, and you can do a lot of stuff with her combos, and she like one of the few characters I know that you can like juggle with.
I would say my favorite. It's between like I play Shermie and
yeah,
I have fun with Shermie. You know, those command grabs are fun,
bro,
you know?
for real.
And but I think my favorite girl, you know, in terms of SNK is like Blue Mary for sure.
Yeah,
I always enjoyed her gameplay.
I like Mai, but she's like the Chun-Li, you know. She's just like everyone's gonna know who Mai is, and you know how to play her, you know. But yeah, if I were to rank the 5, I would say King is at my top. Then probably Vice, Blue Mary, Angel, then B Jenny. I love B Jenny. I know a lot of people love her. I just can't. I never really got into like her gameplay.
Everybody loves her design.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I like her design too, but I just can't like um get down with the gameplay. I just never like been able to get used to it.
Yeah, she was also a top tier in Garo.
Yeah, so maybe that's also
Was
the
it?
reason I don't like playing top tiers. Although I play Yoon and Third Strike.
Yeah, but I would say I always felt I feel like my Third Strike opinions tend to be very controversial because of the fact that I feel like the top tiers in Third Strike aren't as fucked up as some people kind of put them out to be.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Yun is that crazy outside of Ganajin. Like, in
Mm.
Ganajin, he's, I feel like he should be thrown in the trash. But like outside of that, he's just like he has a very good moveset.
Yeah. I would say you still have
but
to
like,
work for it. You know.
yeah, you definitely still have to work for it.
I mean, like to be honest, like for me, like the best, like, when it comes to like the top tiers in Third Strike, I'm like, okay, if you play Ken or Chun-Li, bro, dude, okay, I'll just give you the round. I won't give you the round, but I know I'm not gonna win, or I have a low chance of winning.
Well, I
But
feel like Ken is like the fair top tier because he doesn't have and Third Strike Ken doesn't have a gimmick. He's just consistent. Like,
yeah,
he
he's
can
just
fight
really good.
against
Yeah.
he can fight against anybody, and you can always win, even against Chung Li. And I as a Chung Li player, I in Third Strike, Chung Li's normals are probably the most busted like they've ever been. They
Yeah.
basically reach across the world, and like her Karo throw is ridiculous. It basically can reach you half screen.
Yeah, and her super
I
is just
love B
insane.
Jenny Rick for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I know. That's Saku. But yeah, fucking Chun Li in that game. But then we saw like in the last year's Evo, I believe there was a player that used Hugo really well. But pretty much if
Oh,
you just
yeah.
know how to play your cards right, like that game is just pretty much fair. You know.
Yeah, and Ryu won a major Third Strike tournament.
Oh shit! Yeah, see, so it's not always gonna be Ken. But yeah, you just
Yeah,
have
so I
to
was.
work for your characters, and that's cool, man. Because like Legacy, like over 25 years of that game, people are still like finding out cool stuff.
Mhm. Very cool. Oh, so like onto the fifth one. What impact do you think these systems have had on newcomers and veterans? Bam, bam.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I would.
I feel like.
Hmm.
Yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
Um, for me, I would just say it's like a big alienation for both sides because new players coming in, regardless of what game you're gonna come in, people are still gonna call you like what do I say, like a new like generation, but like not in a good way. Like people will call like Street Fighter 4 kids like 09ers, or they'll call Guilty Gear Strive like players strivers and all that stuff, and it's like you're always gonna have that title, but at the same time you're always gonna have like the people saying that the veterans are kind of like the old boomers, the old farts and stuff. But what impact I think happened, what impact I think that these systems have had on newcomers and veterans is just a big alienation, man. It's like, and the fact that a lot more people can get wins on older, more pro players, or just older players in general, not just pro players, is that you can easily get a win off a lot of people in these new games, and whether if it's like well earned or justified, or did you play it better, people are always gonna like use these systems, and they're gonna use it as like a crutch or like as an excuse to be like, well, you beat me. But at the same time, it's like, well, if these systems weren't in these games and you were playing like true, let's say true Tekken, like in Tekken 3, would you still be able to like take a round off like, I don't know, knee, I guess, without drive rush? I mean, not drive rush, a heat.
Heat, a heat engager.
Yeah.
Into like hell sweep or like double electric wind godfist.
Yeah, and then electric wind godfist is already the true one because you don't have to just frame it, so.
Oh yeah, you don't have to just frame it in Tekken 8. It's a lot more lenient.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll give you the spotlight.
I feel like it tends to vary game to game. Obviously with Tekken 8, damn, I don't like I feel like I've been dunking on Tekken 8, and I don't mean to, but it's like Tekken 8. It's like that's definitely the case of when the core system goes a little too far. Nah, not a little too far. It's crazy. It goes straight up too far. That system has gone too far. Um, they definitely like it's definitely alienated its veteran players, and I don't think it's bringing too many new players. Even though Tekken 8 has done pretty well, I heard from its sales. But like in terms of the long term impact on the players, in Tekken 8's case, I don't think it's too well. Street Fighter 6 could be a bit of more of a mixed bag. I think as these games tend to kind of go on in terms of their lifespan, the perception can change. Street Fighter 5, it really made a comeback by the third/fourth season, and it started sticking. People really started enjoying it collectively, both veterans and newcomers, like around the fourth and fifth season. So I think this is more of like sometimes we kind of wait to see how the system shapes the game in the long term. Because like these games will stumble sometimes. Sometimes a patch is gonna kind of happen where we don't really like things, especially if the core system itself is already kind of disliked, or we're already having our issues with it. But sometimes it might be a case of where we kind of gotta let the game develop a little bit. I think with Street Fighter 6 overall, I'll say it's a little more positive.
Yeah,
For both.
I would say that too. Yeah, because
Especially,
yeah,
sorry,
no, that's okay. You can.
I was just saying, especially considering Street Fighter 6 definitely is a build off of a 5.
Yeah,
It's like 5 with more freedom in a sense.
yeah, absolutely. Five a little bit more. Five, but like a little bit more thought out because everyone kind of has like, everyone has like the same mechanics rather than just having like a gimmick for each character. But yeah, because SF6, a lot of people came back to play that game. Like I know some coworkers that said that they haven't played Street Fighter since like 4 or like even before then, and they bought 6 and they've been enjoying it. Aside from like the casual like character customization like mode, they've been liking it and they've been learning it as well. Meanwhile, like Tekken 8, some people are coming like off of Tekken 7 and they're going to Tekken 8 and then they're just like being like I guess in a way culture shocked, or how do I say it, or they're just getting jumped into this like new game with new mechanics, having to relearn a lot of stuff. But then it's like you get these new players that haven't played legacy games and they're just pulling off all these combos and stuff with like half the effort of like even Tekken players from the older games. And it like you said, it just created like a big alienation. But also, to talk about that point, is like some new players, man, they're either gonna stick with it or they're just gonna like return the game or not care about it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Definitely can be the case. When I think about this part, I kind of really flash back to like back in the day when Street Fighter 5 just came out. Street Fighter 5 got a lot of flack for its simplification and its accessibility, especially like the iconic Lupe Fiasco versus Daigo game, and like how Combo Fiend in his statement kind of said, it kind of just shows anybody could be a champion, and like it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Back in that time, Combo Fiend was kind of saying stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like people were getting mad, but it was like, to be fair, he's saying literally the only thing he could say.
Yeah, exactly. And it like sometimes the truth does hurt, it sucks, but at the same time he wasn't like well liked in the scene around that time, because I know around that time MVCI was out and he was kind of like working for it.
But yeah, the functions.
Yeah, the functions and shit. No Magnetos. Oh, that's.
It was like, again, like people get mad at it, but he literally said the only thing he could have said.
Yeah.
Because obviously, when you work, when you're working like in relation with companies and stuff like that, even when a deal goes bad or a product comes out like not according to the standard that was expected, it's not a good thing, especially if you want to continue to work with this company to try to like throw them under the bus, even though
Yeah,
we all know what happened with that game. It
everyone.
didn't have
Yeah,
the proper budget and it didn't get the roster that it should have had.
yeah, and it was mandated by like Marvel with their whole MCU theme, and it was just a like I dare I say a shit show. And then he had to like kind of like clean up the poopy feces, and he had to like kind of cover up for him. Like, well, they're just functions, If you want an 8-way dash, just use Captain Marvel. But people, they didn't want Captain Marvel; they wanted Magneto. But
And it was like,
yeah,
yeah, it had dragged me. It was like, well, if you're trying to get this, you know, to be in line with the MCU, why didn't you just wait to release the game like around the time Infinity War came out? Because
oh
MVCI
yeah,
came out like in September of 2017, and
hmm
Infinity War came out in like April of 2018. So it was like, bro, the game could have had a few more months in the oven.
oh, absolutely, man. Like I remember when that game came out, I was like in college, and I was like, man, if they just waited like one more year after like Infinity War and Thanos became like this viral sensation again, they could have like pushed numbers for this game, regardless of how good it was or not.
Hmm.
And it's just so, man, that's like a whole discussion in itself. But man, MVCI, man, what a band. What a game that actually had all these mechanics like brought into it. It was both a regression of the series, and it tried to get new players into the series, and it just was not. It was like a bad example of all these systems put into place.
And yeah, in a way, it's almost like a homogenation of a lot of the stuff we talked about. But I almost want to kind of just save that for like a whole nother video or live
Oh
stream,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
because that's literally a 2 hour discussion in
Oh,
itself.
oh yeah. Oh my god, yeah. I have so much to say, but I just never got around to it.
Especially after like the whole big MVCI Beyond patch and like
Yeah,
how like basically that basically kind of help bring new life into the game.
it did kind of help the legacy of the game, but that was not even like a Capcom thing. That was more of a community thing.
Very
But
much a community effort.
MVCI, it's a very much a nuanced topic, but it for the most part it was like a negative thing, regardless of however you looked at it from a developer, competitor, legacy player. That was just not a good time for it.
Yeah. I had even made a video about like in defense of MVCI, because it does have a bevy of positives
Yeah,
going for
absolutely.
it. But I think its timing and its roster are definitely hurt.
Yeah, and especially
Yeah.
since like I'm looking at your Discord icon, like the competitor to that game. Like yeah, Morris Capcom of all games had a competitor too around that time.
Yeah, competition is normally a good way to kind of help breed innovation, but like in that case, that competition basically buried it
Oh yeah, it like just used the heat engager and just destroyed it in one round.
pretty much.
But
Especially since I think the beta for Dragon Ball Z Fighters came out
oh yeah,
the opening weekend of MVCI, which was like almost like a whole pissing on the flames and like lighting them.
yeah, exactly. Like especially like you go back and look at the reveal trailer for MVCI. It was a little bit lukewarm, but people were hyped because it was Morris Capcom. But then you see like the E3 reveal of DBFZ, and then people were just going insanely crazy for it, man.
Yeah,
But
it was quite a time. I remember me and my boys were in college and we were kind of just like my friend. He was just showing me the memes. He was like, "Bro, it's cooked.
it is, bro.
It's cooked. It's absolutely cooked." And I
Yeah,
was like, "Why do they look so ugly? Like, what's happening?"
bro. I remember being on Twitter, right, and I was just like looking, like just going back into the animations, and I was like, man, why is Captain Marvel's like beam hitting Ryu before the beam even like hits Ryu? Like his animation's just like tweaking before it even reaches him. It's just so bad.
A producer had said that, like, to be fair, MVCI's whole budget was comparable to like one season of Street Fighter Five,
Oh god,
which is insane.
that is terrible, man.
That is horrible.
Yeah.
You know, because I believe Marvel, didn't help like finance So, and they didn't get a co-marketing, unlike Street Fighter Five. Capcom didn't get a co-marketing deal with Sony for MVCI.
Oh yeah.
So, and Capcom, I think after the Cross Tekken fiasco, because you know in the early 2010s, when Street Fighter 4 was a success, Capcom thought they could do what they did in the 90s and just release multiple fighting games and they'd be alright. But it was like, nah, the landscape of gaming has changed. You know, like fighting games aren't like the dominant juggernaut that they used to be. Like you can't have like 5 fighting game franchises going on at the same time. Like in 2011, I think Capcom released 4 fighting games at the same time in the same year.
Yeah, it was like Third Strike Online Edition, Marvel
There's
3,
like online edition,
Marvel
Ultimate Marvel 3,
Yeah, Ultimate Marvel
Tatsunoko
3.
versus. I think it was Tatsunoko versus Capcom as well,
They had a few, right? They
and one more.
and like Darkstalkers Resurrection, was it?
That came out like I think the year after.
Mm.
Yeah, they were like releasing way too many fighting games too fast.
Yeah, and it was just hard to keep up. I remember they even like around the same time. I don't think it was the same year, but they tried to like remaster like JoJo's and Marvel Origins and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's a shame we probably never gonna see a re-release for JoJo's
I mean,
because like
I would probably say never. You know, I mean, the impossible already happened. We got CVS re-release and Marvel's Capcom. Maybe JoJo's
Okay,
could
that's
happen. You know,
well the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. What was it? Marvel had responded or Capcom had responded? I don't remember. One of them had responded and saying they saw like they didn't necessarily say they were doing something, but they saw like the reach from the community. And then we got those cabinets for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that had the rollback netcode, and everybody was like, "Damn, is this it? Is this it at the MVCI?" It's like some people were speculating, "Oh yeah, it's because like those cabinets function under a different license. They don't function as video games; they function as toys technically."
Yeah.
And like so, people were unsure if we were actually gonna get the games back on like a console type situation because those cabinets were like $500. And I wanted to buy one really bad, but I was like, at that time, the cabinets came out. I was like, damn, I definitely don't have that money on me right now.
I remember pre-ordering one because I saw it on a Max stream, and I was like, yeah, I had to have it. But it's like, because I was like, when are we ever gonna get these games again? But like, I felt like there was a lead up to like the re-release, and God, man, was that magical last year?
Oh yeah. I was literally at work at my old job. You know, I'm on my computer, and like my friend, he works next to me, and like while I'm working, I'm watching the Nintendo Direct, and like it came out of nowhere, and I was like flipping out. I jumped out of like my chair, and like thankfully my boss wasn't like in the office at that time, so I was lucky flipping out. I was like, oh shit, on a Nintendo Direct,
Bro,
and then Nintendo
all
did it again.
That's fucking insane. The impossible happened.
They did it again. No Winter Soldier again, like on a Nintendo Direct, like the Capcom Fighting Collection 2. I was like, again?
Holy shit, dude! In the same year. Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy because I remember when that shit got that got revealed, man. It was insane.
It was like I almost felt like I was getting punked. I was like, there's no way.
For real. Because the way I found out was I was at the airport, right, and I had to drop off some family to like the airport, and then I'm in the restroom, and not gonna give out too much detail, but I was on my phone, and then I was skipping through it, and I saw the Punisher like on what's it called, the Punisher like arcade beat 'em up. I was like, no way. The beat 'em up. I was like, no way, and I'm like re-scrolling through it. I was like, oh my god. And then like my Instagram chats just started popping off. They all, because I'm in different group chats, and they're like popping off on Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm like, fuck. But it was amazing because I remember earlier in the year too, I was playing Children of the Atom. X-Men Children of the Atom was one of my buddies on stream, and I told him, dude, it's like the 30th anniversary of Marvel, not Marvel, but of Children of the Atom. Like, they got to do something. He was like, yeah, I hope so. And I joke with him because it's like we manifested it because there was just a lot of X-Men shit coming back, and we were like, man, wouldn't it be cool if they had like did something for at least like Children of the Atom. And a few months later, they do Marvel's Capcom collection.
X-Men '97 had launched early in the year last year.
Yeah, X-Men 97, then they had Wolverine and Deadpool, and then they had like the fucking X-Men on like Coke bottles and shit, you know?
Yeah, X-Men had made a huge comeback last year.
Yeah, it was insane because I was thinking about this because I was listening to the Cap Jams earlier. I was like, man, there's a time where you wouldn't see these characters at all, and that was a big reason why MVCI failed. You know?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much. Oh yeah, but we've been drifting off a little too
Yeah,
much.
off the topic. But
Yeah. Oh,
should we just wrap up number 5 then?
I think we can wrap up number 5. Again on that, that's kind of it tends to not necessarily be a whole general thing about how these systems can impact a newcomer and veteran. It definitely is a game to game situation. Like we did see a big change with Street Fighter 5, how people kind of didn't like it first, and then like towards the end of the game, like that 5th season was amazing. Phenomenal. Akira, like I went crazy for that. Like
Oh
I did
yeah.
not expect that. I
Yeah.
was like, it was funny. I started playing Project Justice again through emulation. I
Hell
was
yeah.
like, damn, it's like, how come rival school characters never got into the versus games? Like, we only ever saw Kyosuke in CVS,
Mhm.
and
And Batu
I was
and
like, damn.
TBC.
Yeah, and it's like, damn. I was like, that'd be really cool, And then 1 month later, season 5 gets announced, and like Akira, and I was like, oh.
Bro, it's so good, man. Because oh my god, it's amazing. Like when things like start, like when the fucking stars align and shit just starts happening, man. It's like so magical, you know. It's
It
insane.
really is. I was like, holy shit! I was just saying the other week, like,
Yeah. Because my brother was super heavy into SF5. He followed like every season. He was into it more than I was. And then we saw the live stream, and then as they were revealing each character, right? Then when the producer was like, "Oh yeah, the next character is gonna be someone from Rival Schools," we just started popping off. I'm like, "Oh shit, Rival Schools!" And they showed Akira because I didn't play Rival Schools a lot when growing up, but we played Project Justice on Dreamcast. And man, dude, that was
Project
just fucking
Justice is the
insane.
better game.
Yeah, it is the better game, man. But it's insane.
I just,
man.
I was just a little sad, Sakura didn't come back as a guest character for Project Justice, but
Oh yeah.
Project Justice is still really super fun. So
Yeah, it's so good. It's pretty sick, man. But yeah, man, it's just insane how they kind of just like brought her back after all these years. It's insane. Yeah, especially too because Sakura, which just came out like the season before, right?
Sakura, I think, came out season 2 or 3. Sakura came back season 3,
Oh yeah, yeah, and then, like arcade, like around arcade edition, right?
arcade edition. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sakura basically helped save that game. Like season 3 is basically when like Street Fighter 5 kind of got its act together.
Yeah, it felt like the actual like complete package. I remember that because I remember
Yeah.
they had a whole cinematic and it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, this is the game we're supposed to get at launch."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
but like we could move on to the next one.
and all right, let me
I
just
got some.
yeah, that's gonna be like our final one. Then after that we can just like talk a little bit more.
Go on to the chat. It's cool how capital G is like. It's cool how X-Men had their comeback year last year. This year it's been the Fantastic Four. Yeah, it definitely has. This year's Fantastic Four has been popping off. Marvel Rivals, the Fantastic
Yeah.
Four First Steps. It'd be cool to see them in like some fighting games. If we get a MVC4, which is probably 5 years still down the line, if so.
Yeah, or we could get. I'm not trying to like bring anyone's like expectations up, but we could probably see something in Evo, you know. But
I feel like that's a little
too soon.
We could a little too soon. I feel like if we see anything about like the versus series, probably be like a year or two away.
Yeah, but they're still thinking about it because they just did like their Cap Jam remix for some theme songs and they had an update, which is still great, man.
And the collection did pretty well.
Yeah, I bought I bought it like a few times. I even bought it for like one of my friends.
Yeah, I bought it for my Steam, and I think I'm gonna buy the Switch copy so I can kind of play on the go.
Hell yeah. But let's just jump into the final topic, and then we can just get into talking to like miscellaneous stuff. But I guess I'll read this off. So let's compare modern games that haven't followed this game design. So,
Off the bat for me, I think that's the first one I think I can think of is KOF 15.
oh yeah, I'll let you say that, and I'll say mine. But I'll just bounce off of what you say. I'll give you the spotlight.
Yeah, I think we were talking earlier. Like KOF 15 still kind of stayed true to kind of being a more classic fighting game. You know, it didn't follow the game's design. Well, KOF 15 came out in 2022. Yeah, it came out in 2022, and it was still slightly right before the big boom of these games having these core systems. But KOF chose to go in the direction of having like classic gameplay, you know, no crazy comeback mechanics, building a meter. But it introduced a few tweaks and changes from 14 to kind of still keep it fresh. But it doesn't rely on crazy spectacle to be the core of its gameplay.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
regenerative meter.
Yeah, because the only thing I could really think about in that game that was more like the whole like modern fighting game, like how do I say, like trend that it was just following was just the auto combos. But even then, it wasn't as good as you think it'd be. It was more of a hindrance than it was. It was more something you kind of had to like avoid if you already knew how to play the game.
Yeah, if anything, it was just like the auto combo was definitely way more of a hindrance. I agree there because it's like I can't do jab, jab, jab. If I do double jab, then I start doing the auto combo, and it was just like, that's okay. Why can't I just turn this off? Like,
Yeah.
you feel me? Like,
Yeah,
this is
it almost felt like something you had to work with. You know, it's almost like you had to avoid like pressing like a button that would actually like kind of like fuck you over in the long run. Because if you had like over level 3, you're not gonna be able to use max mode, and it just goes into auto level 3 with less damage, and you're like, fuck, I should probably use something else that isn't light punch.
like typically you're just gonna just be going for like crouching light a lot in that game.
Yeah, exactly. Or just go straight to like your hard punch. And in that game, you had like a lot of connectors now. Because I'm thinking about rock because I see the icon. You know, with me, I would go into hard punch into forward light punch, and that's like the way I would use the light punch, because that was usually his connector.
Yeah, Rock had very it was very good in you know, it's funny, Rock, it's very funny how in Rock's first game, you know, he's arguably the worst character in the game,
Yeah,
but in every game he's ever been after that, he's high tier. Typically, he's consistently high tier.
because it's almost like a metaphor of him coming up as the new generation. It was hard for him to get his feet off the ground, but now he's just like
Yeah.
dominant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
His
even
install was crazy too.
oh fuck, I love that shit. With the hand shit, right? Doing the level 3.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Mhm.
But yeah, KO 15, I would say it's something that didn't really try. It tried hard, like not following that trend aside from like the auto combo. You know, max mode was still something you had to like build up to. If you press it in neutral, you get a longer bar, but if you do it like while you're trying to do a combo and stuff, you kind of get punished for doing it, and it scales a lot worse because you won't get as much time with it. And if you just like do it to do as a combo extender, you're almost like kind of punished for doing it, you know. That's why in the combo trials, when you do like the big heavy like TLD damage, they make you do max mode like raw, like neutral, and then you go into your like EX combo into like level 2 and finish it with level 3. But max mode was something you, like in most of the games, it's like a very risky thing to pull off, and a very risky high execution thing you had to do.
I think I like the way, well, technically it's not called max mode. And KLF 13 is called the drive gauge. I like how it works. I like how it works in KLF 13. I think that's my favorite iteration of it.
Yeah. KOF 13 is a game I played on and off. I wasn't really heavy into KOF 13, although I know a lot of people consider it like the magnum opus. I was more into like other fighting games around that time. For me, it kind of got overshadowed by other games, but
No,
Yeah,
that's absolutely what happened.
yeah,
Yeah, it got overshadowed. SNK SNK didn't really have a lot of money to like market their games,
yeah,
so it easily got overshadowed because especially KOF 13 came out around the time like other companies were making fighting games again. Like, Capcom was releasing a slew of fighting games, and Bandai Namco started releasing new fighting games again. So it got lost in the sauce, especially because again, SNK never has had a lot of money
mm,
ever since they gone bankrupt. They haven't had as much money to
yeah,
like market their games and stuff.
yeah. It's crazy because like you said, a lot of games were coming out around that time. Yeah, I remember even like Guilty Gear Rev. Was it Guilty Gear Rev 2 or something was out? Guilty Gear Xrd.
Xrd,
Xrd.
yeah, Xrd Rev 2.
Yeah, and then all these other games is like shit. Like it kind of like got overshadowed and stuff. But yeah, I would definitely say like the modern fighting game that came out, like you said. It's funny how SNK always gets brought up when it comes to this like stuff. When it comes to a little bit of the fairness, for me, my fighting game I would really compare it to, even though it's kind of hard to call it modern because it's been out for like about like 6 years, is Sam Show 2019. You know?
Another SNK game.
Yeah, exactly. And man, that game to me is like a modern day masterpiece because of how insanely classic the game feels, and it feels like a true fighting game. Like there's not a lot of gimmick into that game, and everything you can do in that game is super hard to pull off, and you're giving your resources like all from like round start, but they don't recharge at all. Once you use it, it's gone, man. Like
Oh yeah, once you use ESEN, it's over. Like, you can't use it again.
yeah, Isen, the super special move. You can use your super for like for a while, but it's like the original games where you have to be like having your meter all the way full, and you can do it like 3 times in a row, but it'll be super unsafe. But you have to do it
Yeah, you
within
gotta
the
be.
time limit.
Yeah, you got to be in like rage mode. Um, yeah, that game is very pure.
Yeah,
And its design, and that's the spirit of Sam Show. Sam Show has always tried to be a pure fighting game. It's more of a, I play footsies, and like if you make a mistake, I'm cutting you in half and I'm taking half your health.
yeah, it's like all big damage, and that is one of the few modern games I can say is like super high risk, high reward, but it's well earned. You know.
Very much. Or it's basically a rewards fighting game fundamentals to a T. Very much so.
Yeah, because everyone has like their universal overhead. They can disarm. They can parry. Well, like sword parry. They can even catch your weapon if they disarm you. You know, you just have to like try and time it right. They have spot dodge. Some people have armor moves, but it's not like super insane. Then you said Isen, which I call it rage. You know, because like if you're down to your last bit of HP, you can press that and it'll negate like the last like attack your opponent does. But it's also well thought out too because it can scale very crazy. Because in Sam Show, your grabs are not like Street Fighter grabs. They don't do damage. They either just push your opponent or they turn them around. And if you pop Isen or Rage on it and you do the whole like full screen like strike thing, it'll scale if you grab it, and it'll be almost like not worth it at all, and you got rid of your super meter. Meanwhile, even if you do choose to do that, they can pop their version of it, and they can
And get you right back.
get you right back exactly. You know, it's always like a thing you have to like look out for. You're always on your toes in that game, even though it feels super slow. It's something that you have to like kind of like read your opponent and do a lot of mind games as well.
Yeah. Damn, aside from SNK, were there any others? I wouldn't count the Guilty Gear Strive because Guilty Gear Strive is very aggressive compared to the other games, which is saying a lot compared to how crazy some of the older Guilty Gear games can get. Hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any other
Yeah, because
modern examples that aren't SNK?
yeah, because you said Strive was like super different, right? Like it feels not as crazy as the original Guilty Gear games. Although I'm not even like into that like franchise. I know playing like what was it, Exard, and the one before it was it Accent Core or something. It did not feel like the older games. It felt like its own different game.
Yeah, I very much did. It was very much Strive definitely was a push in the game trying to reach a broader audience, which it definitely did.
Yeah.
It's easily the most successful Guilty Gear game of all time. It sold like 4 million units at this point, which is amazing. Uh, Strive went for like simplifying the characters and kind of like making big damage easier compared to Exard.
Yeah. But it just
So it's a
it felt super
it
different.
that yeah, it felt very different. The Guilty Gear, funny enough, I never really got to play Xrd. I watched a lot of it at Evo, but the one I actually played was like Accent Core. I did play a bit of Accent Core, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely different from Accent Core. It looks very different from Xrd. I would say Xrd is probably the Guilty Gear game that has some of the lower damage in the series, but at the same time, Xrd had insta kills, so.
Yeah, I remember the insta kills, and stuff was pretty hard to pull off in XR. I remember because I played it a little bit on the PS4 in some like group chats, and I'm not a big Guilty Gear head, so I'm not really familiar with the legacy. But from what I remember playing, it was really fun, and it felt like a lot of freeform. It felt kind of like a 1v1 hyper fighter, but a lot of shit was just hard to pull off in that game. But then like
Yeah.
you go to play like Strive, you're like, damn, this feels like I'm playing a whole different like genre, like not genre, a whole different game because it's not like no one's like dashing like crazy. No one's trying to do like their dust loops and like you know they're not doing like
Oh yeah,
crazy
no.
air combos and all that shit. But like
Or like crazy corner Gatlings like are
yeah,
gone.
because
You
I
know.
would play Jam and Slayer. And those are pretty well. Jam more especially is more like a Rushdown character, and then I played the beta for Strive, and I'm like, damn, this feels really slow. It kind of feels like I'm pressing triangle like two times into like a what's their version of the not the drive rush, but like the combo extender. Uh,
The wall, was it wall break?
not just the wall break, but I think you press triangle and R1. I forgot what it's called.
Roman Castle?
Roman cancel. Yeah, you do a Roman cancel, and it's like, damn. Some of it just feels a lot samey, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. It was a simplification. It went Strive. I think it's a more positive example of like these games going into the modern design of like a more spectacle, easy to play. Off the top of my head, in terms of mainline examples, and I guess we could talk about MK1. I haven't funny fun fact, I haven't played MK1.
Oh, really?
No, I haven't. I
Damn.
I heard it had a very rough launch. The game's a lot better now,
I
from what I hear.
I do remember playing the launch, and it did feel like a lot. It felt exactly like kind of like not like SF5, but it felt like something similar where there was less content and not as great as the last game. But I remember playing like MK1 for the first season, and I think that also had its own problem as well when it came to mechanics, because their version of like the whole deviation from old
Cameos,
mechanics, yeah, is cameos, and that just extends their combo longer, and a lot of people dropped off of it.
and then I heard Cyrax was like broken as hell.
Yeah, he was because he could just extend the combo forever.
Yeah.
But
Does MK1 does MK1 have a refillable meter? I don't recall.
you know what? I don't. It's funny. I played that game like just a few months ago. I just don't remember. I think the only refillable thing in that thing is just the cameos. The cameos you do have to wait for it to refill, and the fatal blows is like the ones in MK11, which is near the end of your HP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of going in that direction, but not fully. Once
Yeah,
again,
but still, like it's still an alienation to like the older fans because like the older fans are not used to like the air combos or they're not used to like the big assists. That's more of like a hyper fighter type of like game mechanic in my opinion.
well, MKX did have air combos, but I guess with MKX they were just way harder to pull off.
Yeah, way harder to
They
pull
were a
off,
lot
and
harder.
I think some characters could do it and some couldn't. But
Mm.
but here like the whole gimmick is like air combos into assists. And I always have a theory too. I felt like MK1 was not supposed to be an MK game. I felt like it was supposed to be NRS's version of MK, not MK, MVC, but like Injustice with MK. but they didn't want
Oh
to
yeah,
call it
but
MK versus DC 2 because that has a bad stigma.
yeah, it was I did it was the rumor going around at the time before MK1 came out, or the next NRS game is gonna be some type of DC versus Marvel game or some type of game like that. That was like the rumor going around. And but like Warner Brothers themselves, they are going through a very big restructuring when it came to their games. Well, the
Yeah.
company, not just their games, the company in general, like their movies and stuff weren't doing very well. Everything was getting restructured, especially their games. So that's why we had to wait for like the next Mortal Kombat for a little while. And yeah, uh, there was the rumors that it was supposed to be like a Marvel DC game, and potentially it was supposed to be Injustice 3, but we got another Mortal Kombat. And definitely you can tell whatever was going on at Warner Brothers behind the scenes, it impacted this game because there was a lack of content, the balance was off, and yeah,
Yeah,
just
absolutely. It's not.
just didn't feel complete.
It was incomplete. I remember playing that, and I'm like, why is there like no lobbies or theater mode like in MK11? MK11 was like a full package, regardless of how the gameplay felt. I felt like it was worth your money more than MK1.
Yeah, it was like you can't argue that. Like MK11, definitely that was a full game. You got crypt, you got a story mode, you had towers, you had mini games, you had a very full game with MK11. You can no matter how you feel about like how the game played, there was definitely a complete package. MK1 did not feel like a complete package. It
No,
was definitely missing content.
yeah, it felt more like a live service game too, because at every corner they try to sell you a lot of stuff, and that got me to drop the game as well. It's funny because it's like the same thing that's going through like Tekken 8. I'm pretty sure Bandai Namco is like mandating them to like do all this like monetization, but it's just like not working out, man. Because the last time I logged in Tekken 8, I just check out like what they had. They had like a battle pass and Tekken V Bucks. I think I don't know what the fuck they're called, but they had like like the shop was just filled with a bunch of cosmetics of stuff that you could already get, and it's like, oh man, not Tekken. But
I was like, Bandai Namco, are you being so fucking greedy?
yeah,
Like, like, bro, you make money. Tekken 7 sold like 8 million copies, bro. Like, hop off. Like,
yeah, that,
and then they charged Tekken 7, I think is the first, cost $70. It didn't cost 60. I mean, Tekken 8
Tekken
cost
8,
like
yeah.
$70. It was $70. It was a $70 game. I
Yeah,
was like, damn, it's begun.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because no, well, it's for me. It started with MK1, but I bought the collector's edition because I was kind of hyped for that game. But I had buyer's remorse for both those games, and I only bought the regular edition for Tekken 8. But SF6 was like the one where I'm like, oh, I'll try to put more time into it. But when it comes to other modern games that haven't followed this game design, we already talked like the ones we chose, but a fighting game that I can say that's not really like well known in recent memory. I played a little bit of the
Oh,
Iron Saga Versus. That felt more like a traditional fighting game than most of these ones. You know,
hmm.
that was the one with the super robots. But I think on another fighting game that I just like felt like, damn, this feels more like Street Fighter than Street Fighter. This feels like an actual like neutral fighting game, even though it has its own bullshit. But it's Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising, because I played the first version, but
Ah,
Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising was like, I didn't even know they like made a sequel to that game because I bought that game like a few years ago. But I was like, damn, this game feels so fucking good though. It just feels like a fight, like quote unquote fighting game, you know?
oh, versus, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. When Grand Blue first came out, I roasted it, bro. I roasted it. I was like, bro, guys, like I tried it out and I was like, guys, this is not fun. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to rip on a game. I definitely tried like to not like outright like rip on something,
Mm.
but like I was like, you know, this is new and it's doing something a little bit new in terms of like that game also started was part of the trend of like mechanics that were refillable.
Yeah,
Because Grand Blue, they have cooldowns instead of special move inputs,
yeah.
and the game just felt very slow, and the starting cast just felt kind of boring.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny too because I don't know anything about Grand Blue. I know about side games because they had a game on iPhone with Nintendo that I was really much a big player of it. It was called Dragalia Lost, but they also made Grand Blue, which is another like gotcha game, and I decided to try it out because I'm like, wow, a fighting game is something that's like adjacent to something I like, and I played it, and then people were roasting it because they were like, oh wow, why does this fighting game have like cooldowns and like all this easy mode inputs, and then you get down to playing it, you're like, wow, this feels like an actual like fucking fighting game, you know. And then it was like what, like the third game that used cell shading from Arc System Works, right? Like it was Exard Fighters, then Grand Blue, and I
And
thought
that's
the
when
games was like
Arxis
beautiful. Yeah,
that's when Arxis nailed their visual style.
yeah,
Uh,
and
yeah, they
then
nailed. It just felt a little too slow for me. Just a little bit. And then I heard like basically Versus basically fixed like the issues I had with the game. It was a little bit faster. The roster was a little more diverse. You know, that's like what we should have got like a few years ago.
yeah, and I heard like because I only played like up to season one of Grand Blue because I went back to playing other games. But I remember people were hyping up DNF Duel like crazy, and how you say you felt about Grand Blue was how I felt about DNF Duel, even though people were
Oh
hyping
no.
that shit up, and they were like, to me, in my opinion, DNF Duel felt like what people thought Grand Blue was gonna be, where they're like, oh, this is just easy mode fighting games, why do they have cooldowns and all this stuff? And then I come to play both of them, and I really like Grand Blue because it feels like something you have to execute heavy. You're gonna get punished for all the wrong decisions, and like it's more of like a you problem if you lose. But then I play DNF Duel. I play the beta for that, and I'm playing like Inquisitor, and then we're fighting like Gunslinger, and there's all this bullshit going on and stuff. And then this has like directional inputs, so you're not gonna be doing Hadoukens. Um, you're gonna be
I believe
doing
it was
like
like Smash style inputs, right?
it was like Smash style inputs, but I'll let you know this. It felt more like Power Rangers Power for the Grid, and that came out a few years like before. But
Yeah.
but Power Rangers felt way better than DNF Duel in my opinion, and that's why you see a lot of people felt like they dropped DNF Duel because it was just like a 1v1 Kusuge game or whatever they call TOD games because there's a lot of bullshit there and you can't really fight back, and then you're like waiting
Yeah,
for
very much.
cooldowns, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, me and my friend, we make fun of it a lot. Like we was just like it just. I felt bad. I almost wanted to feel bad, but I was like, bro, it was like you guys are almost doing like what Capcom was doing like 10 years ago. It's like slow down, Arc System Works.
Yeah, like
Like
playing
slow
all these
down,
fighting games.
like slow down a little bit, like. And like DNF Duel, it really was again like a taste of rainbow game because like every character's range was insane. Even like was it Striker? Like her range was basically Chun Li's range from Third Strike.
Bruh, yeah.
Uh, and you had like was it a Crusader combos that were basically killing people off of one touch, like.
Yeah.
And then you have even the devs forgot that they were working on a season, like the
Jesus.
drought of content for a year, and they basically forgot.
Wow. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely like, that's a game I like try to get heavy into, man. But like, in my opinion, it felt like the lesser Grand Blue game. And to
Yeah.
be honest, my opinion still is that Grand Blue just feels a little bit better because people like make fun of the cooldowns, right? But you still have like the meter, you still have EX. If you use EX meter in there, you use up your chance to use the super. And once you're at low health, it's kind of like the revenge meter in Street Fighter 4, where you get a powered up version of your super, but you have to have like your full meter stock in there. And when you see the cooldowns like on the top part of the fight of the life bar, it's basically just teaching you how to play fighting games. Because Grand, let's call Grand's like Fireball a Hadouken. If you do a light version of the Hadouken, it's gonna cool down a lot faster than like the medium or hard version or the EX version. And like you're not gonna be throwing two light Hadoukens out as Ryu because the first one either has to clash with something or it has to leave the screen. Like even in Smash, when Ryu throws out one Hadouken, you can't throw out another one because he just throws out like a little air spit of like a Hadouken, you know?
Yeah, he does out the faint version.
Yeah, the
Try to
faint
throw a
version.
second one.
Yeah, so basically for me, in my opinion, I think Granblue is like the better game when it comes to newcomers because you do get that option of having like easier one button specials, but you get rewarded for doing the actual inputs, you know, and you gotta learn like be more resourceful with your meter, know what to counter. You get spot dodge. I think you even get a roll in some of those. I think you do get a roll in that game as well. You get a lot of mechanics. To me, if Sam Show is made for like older players, Granblue is made for like the newer players, but like the more ideal newer players that's not gonna stick to a comeback mechanic or to like anything that like let me press this heat button and get an auto combo and get like 50% off, you know, of your opponent's health bar. For me, I would say the two games that really do work well is Sam Show because that respects his legacy player, and if you really want to learn it, you're gonna have to dive deep into it because I know a lot of people that got into that series just by that one game, and they've been a fan like since. And Granblue is like the game that I wish people put a little bit more attention to because it does teach you how to play fighting games. You know, people make fun of the cooldowns, but it teaches you like, you know, you have to do your light versions if you want your special move back, you know, and you have to save your meter, and if you manage to save it and do all your combos right, and if you're low on health, you can do a comeback enhanced version of your super, but it's not as like egregious. To me, it feels like the ideal neutral anime fighter, a little bit even better than Guilty Gear Strive in my opinion. But that's just what I've played, you know. I'm coming from a guy who likes like all of them, like meter saving and all that stuff. But for me, I really like Sam Show and Granblue. It's just a game I wish those two are games I wish that would get a lot more attention from people.
Honestly, I wish. I remember I played the original Sam Show. I loved that game as a kid. Galford was my favorite character.
Oh.
I loved Galford. He was so cool. Like you could send the dog. The dog had like 2 special moves. I thought Galford was so cool. You know, Sam Show is definitely they added rollback netcode, so this is a game I definitely probably pick up if it goes on sale.
Yeah, I mean, they did add rollback netcode. I used to play it on the Switch, like with all the delayed base, like crazy atrocities on there. I used to play a lot with.
Oh my god, you are brave,
dude! Not just Sam Show, but also fighters, man. That fucking fighters. That's a whole different topic, but. Yeah, Sam Show has rollback on Steam, but it sucks because the scene is not there, man. I'll be waiting for like hours, not hours, but like a long time for a match, only for it to be choppy and it's like not fun.
Yeah, I think developers started learning at the end of the last console generation that like we have to try to move away to the mindset of launching these games like without like complete features. Like, you know, it took a pandemic for developers to understand rollback netcode needs to be standard.
Yeah.
It needs to be standard. We cannot keep doing this on, you know, obviously, and it's like, I understand there could be I think I can understand why there was a bit of a resistance. Because like rollback netcode, like it's not super simple to put in. It has to go into the game's design early on, not at the tail end. Because like I believe in MKX they tried to retrofit it with a rollback netcode, and it was Ed Boon said it was very expensive to put it in the game after it was made. It's something that has to be designed early on, and because it allocates things like GPU into its processing and all of that, and just trying to add it in there will completely mess with how the game works.
Yeah. But like even if you boot it up like on any console or even Steam, it still plays beautifully. Like in the long run, it's well worth it, you know. And that's why some people are like some of the developers are retroactively trying to like put them into the older games, like Guilty Gear Xrd, and all these older fighting games as well.
I think it's because like since they have experience putting it in newer games, it's they have a blueprint for how it works now, so it's a little bit easier
Yeah.
to put it in like an older game that's not as like intensive in terms of like processing power
Yeah. Because it would
or
be
like
heavier
graphical
to do
output,
it. It'd be heavier to do it in like games in like I don't know, like
like
Tekken
Marvel 3.
6. Yeah, Marvel 3 exactly.
Marvel 3 would be pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That also had the well, we don't know now, but like, well, they also had that whole Marvel acquisition like thing going against it as well. But who knows? Maybe that could be the Evo announcement. But
Oh yeah, I think in the chat, they what is it, Capital G was saying like Torch was supposed to be in Marvel 3, but there was an issue with his flames crashing the game.
damn, they had so many flame
And
characters in that game.
yeah. You had Super Scroll, you had
Ghost Rider, Dormammu.
Ghost Dormammu, Ghost Rider, Dante, with Agni and Rudra.
Yeah, then Amaterasu with her like fire like elemental like supers. Oh, there's just a lot of fire shit. Even like the Resident Evil characters with the explosions.
Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a damn like Marvel 3 is like there's a lot of like no, to be fair, those flame effects still look beautiful in like Marvel 3.
Yeah, everything looks great in
Um,
Marvel 3. Aside from like the characters not moving their mouths when they talk, but that game is gonna be timeless forever, man.
Yeah, the art style was a very smart choice. It was a shame, MVCI didn't get that same love.
Yeah.
It's just sad. I like how I really like how MVCI plays, and since we're talking about like, I would still kind of say MVCI is modern. It's on the edge of still being a modern game, but technically, I was still on this. It technically was. I mean, MVCI had rollback netcode.
Oh
you know,
yeah.
and it was actually pretty good. Not quite Strive level or even Street Fighter 6 level, but really good, especially for the time
Yeah.
when basically nobody was putting it in. Like, it was pretty good. Rollback netcode.
Yeah, because I remember playing in the PS4 era. I remember playing like a little bit of Jetta, and I think Dormammu was my first team. I remember playing online. They had like the craziness of going online while Fighters was out, and it just ran smooth. And then I played it like a little bit later when Season 1 kind of ended. I played like Bucky and Venom, and man, everything just felt like super streamlined.
Shame. Oh yeah, what was another modern game? Alright, so this one was probably a little more modern. I played Melty Blood. Melty Blood doesn't really follow the trend of super aggressive or like refillable meter. Melty Blood type Lumina, yeah, that's what it was. I remember playing that game. I like that game. It's an anime fighter. Combos don't do crazy amounts of damage. I think the max you see, and this is off of a super optimized combo, is like 50-60%, and that has to be super optimized on like a counter hit with every resource at your disposal. But I like that game. It was 1v1. It was focused. It had like its traditional anime like movement and stuff like that, but it was never too crazy. And it didn't follow the trend of just being high damage and, being unga bunga. There was a lot of thought to its systems, like the moon system, as well as like, how to use meter.
Yeah. I've never gotten into like a lot of anime fighters. I think the only time I played like on like other anime fighters other than like Guilty Gear was I think I played a BlazBlue on 3DS, but I've heard a lot of great things about you said Melty Blood, right? I think even is that the same one that does is that Eunice, or is that a different game as well?
Eunice is a different game. Melty Blood, I think are they made by the same company?
Oh, Melty Blood, It, like they weren't in that BlazBlue cross tag battle, were they? Or was it both of them?
Melty Blood wasn't, but yeah, the BlazBlue characters was. I believe.
I think your mic cut off a little bit. Testing. I think the mic got cut off a bit.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a disconnect this time. So I think the sad thing about that's another game I really like. Oh, I really like Cross Tag, man.
Oh yeah,
Cross that game was so fun. It was and I'm a big Persona fan.
yeah,
So, when I saw Persona and Ruby characters in the fighting game, I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Sign me up. And in that game, also, I believe they were planning to add more like anime fighter guest characters.
yeah. Because I
They're planning to
remember
do.
what's his name from that one game? Fuck, what's this? It's the one. It's like that. Well, I know one of the girls from Senran Kagura was in that game like near the end, and then the one with the Blitzkampf, I think was the Blitzkampf game was in there too.
Yeah. Blitz Tank and Akatsuki.
Yeah,
Yeah, I made the Akatsuki. He's so fun. I
yeah.
play Akatsuki Yang,
He
and
looks
I love it.
cool.
It's just punch, 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 switch, punch.
Yeah, yeah. Because I played a bit of that game like when the beta came out, and then I got it on sale a little bit later. Because I remember that was one of the first, not one of the first, one of the few fighting games I had on Switch before they started going crazy, adding the other games on there. And yeah, I remember trying to play a lot of that game. I really couldn't get into it. To me, it felt like a more simpler Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but it felt very crazy. And you're right, it doesn't really follow that give everything out all at once. It does feel like a older, truer game, even though from what I heard, it was a lot simpler than the Blaze Blue games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it felt more like a simpler Marvel too.
yeah, that's what I heard too, because how do you say it? Yeah, because I played some of the Persona Arena games back on PS3, but I just never got like super like heavy into it, because I was like around the big fighting game boom, and I was just like bouncing between different games, but I was always a Capcom loyalist.
So the funny thing is like it was Capcom's downfall with Street Fighter V is kind of what laid the way for developers to kind of start getting a piece of the pie back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Ironically enough, in a funny way, Street Fighter V's like a lukewarm launch was kind of a necessary evil.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ironically enough.
Yeah, because that got me to play like other games. Like I got to play Guilty Gear XR and play Tekken. Then like you said, like the cross tag. Then SNK had their comeback, and yeah, but now the king is back.
Now the king is back.
And
No.
the Marvel's Capcom, dude, the Marvel's Capcom collection, that was like a godsend because I was I think I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I was like really really burnt out of all these new fighting games. And then when that got announced and when that came out, I'm like, I'm on this shit 24/7. And I've already streamed it, like, and I've played it a lot on Fightcade. But I was like, man, I really want to get these games out into the mainstream. And I was just like having fun playing fighting games again. I even got into like gold rank in Marvel's Capcom 1. It was just so amazing.
Yeah, you know what's nice? What I love about the collection especially is that it's not a case of where the game gets re-released and then everybody goes back to Fightcade.
Yeah.
Everybody actually stayed on the collection because the collection is actually like the true versions of the game that everybody liked. Unlike something like, in KOF 2002 released with rollback netcode,
Mm.
everybody basically went back to KOF on Fightcade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with like
Yeah.
98, right?
Yeah. But with the collection, everybody stuck with the collection because it's like Capcom, did right. That code was absolutely on point, and it had the versions of the games that people wanted. Like,
Yeah, and it felt even better too because I remember trying to run MVC2 like on the Flightcast emulator and trying to play it online, which is a big hassle. And just being able to play MVC2 like just natively like on a re-release just feels a lot better.
you don't have to like plug in use a VPN and all that shit.
Yeah, and have like one-way like peer-to-peer connections and then having to set up your fucking controls every time you boot up the emulator. It sucked.
Let's. I feel that. I think
Yeah.
I'm hoping and praying that eventually like Marvel 3 gets some type of re-release because it's like I love Marvel 3 so much. It's easily top 5 fighting games. Probably even in my top 10 favorite games of all 10 time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's annoying to try to play Marvel 3 with good netcode. You have to essentially load up Parsec to get
Yeah.
good netcode and connect your PC with somebody else's with a VPN and all that crap, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, and even then you had to have a good connection. I've tried running Parsec with some of the buddies of mine, and it's just terrible because sometimes it'll just feel like a one. How do I say, like a one-way street, you know? And then the other person's just facing a lot of lag, and it's like, yeah, man, this shit just needs rollback, just so we can get back to the Marvel 3 days.
Mm.
But
I'm assuming Capcom just doesn't really have a way. Maybe it's in the works. You know, maybe you're right. Maybe we could see like
yeah,
Marvel 3 rollback edition at Evo this year. You know, maybe it could be in the works. Because the collection did really good.
yeah,
For Capcom, from what I heard, and then like it was nominated for Fighting Game of the Year. So
yeah, that's true, right? And then Tekken 8 got Fighting Game of the Year, and look how that turned out. but but yeah,
oh.
who knows, man? If they announced that like after the MVC2 finals, dude, the crowd would go crazy.
No, honestly, bro, I'd probably pass out. That'd be insane.
It'll be like them announcing the Mars Capcom collection again, and it's just like a whole giant fucking eruption of like just amazingness, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Marvel, I fucking love that game. That was a game I remember hopping on online when I was like a young teenager and getting absolutely destroyed. But that was one of those games that made me like really want to learn the fucking game too. Because I'm like, damn, I want to do TLDs and all this shit, you know, even though I'm getting my ass beat. But I want to learn these characters and stuff. Because a good game will make you do that. Because I think, even to bring it back, all these fighting games are trying their best to do what they can to bring in a new audience. But all you really need to do is just have like a game that just appeals to you specifically. And then you'll take time out of your day just to learn it. That's how I was when I was a kid. You know, I used to just button mash with my brothers because they would buy all the fighting games. But the first game that made me want to really learn like the inputs and all the fighting games and all that stuff was Street Fighter 4, because I was at that age where I could like learn how to play games like that, you know. And then Marvel 3 also came out like a few years later, and it's like, man, I want to learn how to do these combos with Doctor Doom and Strider and Sentinel and all this shit, you know. And you know, I'm glad that like a lot of more people are getting into these games. And the mechanics do help out for a bit, but if you truly want to learn the game, you're gonna go out of your way to learn it. You're not really gonna have like a crutch to lean on in every game, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely, you know, having systems that appeal to the player is a part of it, but also just having a game that has a great visual style, as well as that's a complete package in terms of content and stuff, is like basically the main way to do it. If you have a solid foundation, then people will attach to your game. And I like that. We're at a point like no more half-baked fighting, at least from what I've seen. No more half-baked fighting games have been getting released anymore. Everybody's stepping their shit up. Even the Hunter x Hunter game was gonna get released with no rollback netcode.
Oh no!
It was gonna get released with no rollback netcode, and they realized, I guess somebody in the dev team made sense, or somebody in the dev team I heard was fighting to say we cannot release this game in 2024 without rollback netcode. Like it's to the point where all right, we will delay the game to ensure that we have rollback netcode integrated and properly tested. And everybody was like, you were gonna release a fighting game with no rollback netcode? Are you crazy?
In the big 2025, for real?
In the big 2025? You be cooked. Dude, we're at a point where crossplay has basically become standard now. Like, you were gonna release it with no rollback?
Jeez. And that was already like a small budget game, but this is from the same people that made Marvel 3, right? So they had that mindset, They still had that mindset.
Yeah. they have that mindset. So I was like, yeah, it's like you better. I
Yeah.
love Hunter x Hunter too, so it's like, oh, I would love to see this game do well, despite its its visuals not being that great, but its visuals aren't as bad as Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. So
Yeah, even that it's like a small indie game too.
yeah, that was an indie game for like the Power Rangers anniversary.
Yeah, I really like that game. I feel like that was one of the few games that the directional inputs did kind of help it, regardless of how it looks. I know a lot of people that actually play that game because of Power Rangers and they liked it a lot. You know,
Hmm.
um, and the Hunter x Hunter X game, I don't know how to say that because I never watched that anime. I know that game looks pretty cool because it's the whole 3v3 fighter,
Hmm.
and it's made by the same people who did Marvel. But I think they're also the same people that did the DNF duel, right?
I believe, yeah, it's Dimps.
Yeah, or
It's
80,
Dimps.
one of those two. I don't know.
I think it's Dimps.
Uh,
I could be wrong. It's Dimps or Aiding for sure.
yeah,
Like
but
working on that game.
that's a game where I would have loved to try it out. It does come out on my birthday too, which is funny as shit. But it's just a game franchise. Well, not it's a game and a franchise where I'm like I have no attachment to any of these characters, and if Marvel didn't come out already, like if the Marvel collection didn't come out, I would have been like trying to like get on board with it. But I mean, I'll have to try it out when it gets like when it comes out a little bit later. But yeah, it really just comes down to like what you really want your players to get into the game. You just have to appeal to them. Because I'm looking at your icon too, and I'm like, I can't count how many people have told me that Dragon Ball Fighters was their first fighting game, like their first true fighting game that wasn't like Smash or Naruto Arena or Tenkaichi.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it did. It helped it very much helped revolutionize the whole fighting game community. Again, it's a modern fighting game that I think came out at the right time. The Dragon Ball franchise was on a high
Mm.
since the Super anime came back and the movies did really well, and Marvel was the Versus series was kind of in the toilet, and it basically had everything everybody wanted, and it's Dragon Ball Z, so these are iconic characters that people instantly are gonna recognize and be like, oh yeah. And the funny thing is, Dragon Ball Z Fighters doesn't have a simplified control scheme. It's there's no crazy inputs. Everything's a quarter circle forward input, but like
Mm.
a lot of casual people played that game. Like, and a lot of casual people actually stuck with that game. Like that game has sold, I believe, 10 million units.
Oh wow.
10 million, yeah.
Cause
It's just as much as Xenoverse too.
oh shit. But I
Yeah.
remember playing that game because I bought it on launch day and I rebought it on Switch. Switch did have a simplified version of it, but it was more of a hindrance because you had to like play with like one Joy-Con and like hold the R button to do like a super, but it was more of like a hindrance. So, but if you're playing this like on like a normal console, you're not gonna be seeing that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because I have it on PlayStation and the Switch too. But like
Yeah.
I forget that the Switch has a simplified version. I never even like pay attention to it. Like,
Yeah, because most people just play it with the regular mode on, and it's funny enough too because that version of the Switch version of DBF Fighters or whatever it's called, it still looks the same. It looks like just slightly less like saturated than like the console version, but it runs just as great. It feels just as good too.
yeah, it runs pretty well. Um, it's definitely not Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh
Oh my
god.
god, MK11 on the Switch was terrible.
Even Samshell had like a downgraded version of it, but the way it looked like
That's
on console and Switch, it wasn't that big of a difference aside from like the background characters. But it was like the more ideal way to play Samshell because it didn't have the choppy like online. It was more streamlined, or it would just end it.
I wonder if the Switch 2. I wonder if Street Fighter 6 on the Switch 2 will have crossplay.
I think it does. I think I saw on the live stream that you can play with, or was it on Street Fighter Twitter that it plays with everybody?
Okay, because the Switch 2 is definitely like kind of what I hope Nintendo would do with their follow console. I was like, hey man, give it the processing power it needs to at least be on par with like a PS4.
Yeah.
And 4K and 60 FPS. I think we're all good.
Yeah,
And
and the PS4 can already run Street Fighter, which is also like a big thing too when it comes to the modern fighters. Is that you kind of don't want to alienate people because there's a lot of people that I know still to this day that don't have a PS5 or a Series X, and they haven't played Tekken 8 or MK1, and they see all the bullshit on there, and they're like, yeah, I'm okay I'm okay not getting that, But people who have PS4s, they still run SF6, and that really helped the player base a lot too.
yeah, I feel like this console, going off on a tangent when it comes to consoles, is just like, this console generation is a little tough to nail down when it comes to like finding a reason to buy a next gen console.
Yeah.
Like because of the fact that like getting the next gen consoles when they came out was already tough. Like developers are at a crossroads of like you can make new games dedicated to the new console, but you would be alienating people of the previous console that haven't had the chance to buy it, especially with the economic state of like,
Yeah.
the United States nowadays. It's a little difficult to be able to justify a $500 or even a $400 purchase.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's understandable. Like some people like don't understand. Some people get mad. It's like, well, why would you buy a new console and they keep making games for the old ones? But it's like, they kind of have to just because like you have to go with what has the biggest user base.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's definitely like a nuanced topic to all these like discussions, but yeah, it's not even to get into like the whole economic state of the world right now, like Jaden Smith, but yeah, it's just a hard time for just gaming in general as well. And then, I've seen a lot of videos on here too. It's just that a lot of people are not getting into these genres because they don't want to like spend a lot of money on games that they know they won't enjoy. Like just to tie it back to like our whole overall conversation, could you imagine going to play, like spending $70+ on Tekken 8 on your $500 console, right? And you're not having fun and you can barely play the game,
Oh, you just get heat engaged. You get hit by a gen overhead into heat engager and you die. Like,
Yeah.
oh hell no! It's all
Yeah, I guess it's 50-50, man. Oh shit, you're in the wall now. Your whole
that's a
life meter is
justified
gone.
crash out. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's how I would crash out too on Tekken 8. This Tekken 8 is the first game, because I've been playing online fighting games since I was a kid, but this is the first game where I actually like physically threw my controller like against the wall, and I've never done that before. And I was fighting a Brian player, and it's like, fuck this game, man.
Look, you're not wrong too.
Yeah.
Brian has always kind of been annoying ever since he's kind of come out.
Yeah.
And I think it was Tekken 5 or Tekken 4. I think it was Tekken 5. Brian was first playable. He's always been an annoying ass character.
No,
but
wasn't
Tekken
he?
8.
He was in Tekken 3, right? I remember him in Tekken 3.
Brian?
Right? Brian Fury, yeah.
What? Was he?
I'm pretty sure because he was like Yoshimitsu's like rival, because he was in that game with Dr. Biskonovich, right? I feel like I've seen him in Tekken 3.
To be honest, you could be right. Tekken 3 did have a version on the PS2 that added more characters. So you could be right. Because when I think of Tekken 3, I think of the PS1 version. The PS1 version didn't have that many characters, but the PS2 version, they added a bunch of characters. So maybe, I think you could be right.
Maybe I do, because I do remember Brian in Tekken 3. Maybe he just had to unlock him. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he
he's
was
always
either
been
an unlockable or
Yeah.
he was like an added character to the PS2 version.
Yeah, because I remember he was even in Tekken Tag. I feel like he's in Tekken 3, but still, regardless, he's been like a crazy character. And then you play him in Tekken 8 now, where he's doing all these fucking 50-50s armors into like his like jab combo against the wall. And you're like, oh fuck, okay, I spent $70 on this game, I can't fucking play it, on the top of the PS5 console. And it's like,
Yeah, that's a justified crash out for sure. I'd probably fling my arcade stick at my TV.
yeah, like on lag too if you have a good connection, because a lot of people for some ungodly reason play on Wi-Fi.
I don't think Tekken 8 has rollback, right?
I think it does, just not as good rollback, but still, people still play on Wi-Fi rather than hooking up their Ethernet cable. and
Yeah,
it's not fun.
funny enough, I believe Tekken 8 actually has the worst rollback out of any modern fighting game.
Jesus, man, it has nothing going for it.
It's like it's literally the worst. It's like, like there was a lot of controversy around those the time of those closed beta. It's funny, it was bad because they did close. I don't think they ever did an open beta test. They were always closed.
Yeah. Oh man, that was
Yeah.
just insane. Like Tekken 8, oh dude, man, that's a whole discussion for like another day. But it's
Yeah, that's also
such a
just Tekken 8. Tekken 8 is also just a whole other discussion because it's just there's too much. Like the closed beta, because I think for my City of the Wolves beta video, I did a little bit of research into the trying to recall the Tekken beta because I think that was the last beta I played. I think I was able to play the closed beta and the online was not very good.
oh gosh.
It was not very good from what I remember. And looking back, just to like verify that maybe I wasn't crazy. Like, yeah, a lot of people agreed. Like that online was not very good, and it was Bandai Namco tried to be slick and make it a closed beta for a reason. You know?
Yeah, and it's just oh man, that game has just been so controversial, man. And, it's not, and it goes outside of just it goes outside just the gameplay, like also like the devs and like the community and
The monetization.
the monetization, the guest character, the whole season pass. I've debated on making a video on it, but it's just like I don't want to add more fuel to the fire. I don't like my channel's not really built on negativity. I mean, I do like my rant videos sometimes, but like I'd rather just have more fun doing videos than having to like rant 24/7. You know?
Same thing on
Yeah.
same thing here on my channel. It's like, I think for me, like the MVCI video I did is probably like the best example of where it's like, I'm never gonna try to rag on something that is obviously going through it unless I can add something constructive to it. Like for like my MVCI video, I did my best to like I straight up hit off the back that this video isn't to like rag on MVCI. There's too many videos on YouTube
Yeah.
to explain that. It's more to kind of go over the things that MVCI did right, and like be a little more positive and constructive towards like what that game has done. And if I do a video on Tekken, it'll probably be in the same thing, like look at what Tekken has done correctly.
Yeah, because like when it comes to like all those negative videos, dude, you'll see like a thousand of those. Like you're gonna hear the same talking points like over and over again. You know, like I think
Yeah.
I've done it for like other videos before, like with I think I like it's not even like fighting game related, but I did it for like Halo and Overwatch, and I'm like you're gonna hear the same talking points over and over again. So I really don't want to add like more to it. But when something does like when they do something right, like I did a recent Overwatch video where I was praising the game because I felt like they were making like a turnaround, and they were actually like, how do I say, catering more to their audience. That's when I like give it its flowers. Like, and I hope the same thing was gonna happen with Tekken 8 and all these other modern fighters. You know.
Virtual Fighter 5, that's it's coming, and Tekken 8. I think that's the same way Marvel Rivals made Overwatch wake the hell up. I imagine Virtual Fighter is probably just gonna do the same thing to Tekken. It's gonna make Tekken wake the hell up.
Oh yeah, like competition is always healthy, man. And now would be a perfect time to have like DOA come back and just go completely against like the last game, get rid of meter and just get more focused on what they used to do, which was just do like a great environment like 3D Fighter, you know.
The funny thing is, you see, it's funny you said that because see, my friend is also a big DOA fan, and ironically enough, one of the main producers of DOA 6 works at Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
He worked on Tekken 8,
Tekken
and
8.
it's kind of funny, he ruined one game and.
Oh god, dude, how can you have that reputation? Well, the sad thing is too, because like that doesn't always stop people from like it does look like a bad luck, but like look at Ono. He was kind of like doing a lot of bad decisions on Capcom's side, and now he's not with Capcom anymore.
Ono is a hilarious case because it's like this is the man that brought Street Fighter back.
Yeah,
But this is also the man that also almost killed it
killed
again.
fighting games, and then he did it again. So who knows? He's kind of like KG Inafune, you know. He's the Mega Man
Very
guy, but
much.
then Mighty Number Nine happened, and he's trying to make NFTs. It's like, oh fuck. Okay, so who's the one actually responsible for making the franchise cool?
Well, I actually even go back further and be like a Mega Man in base situation. It's like, oh yeah, this is the guy that made Mega Man X4, but he made the Mega Man X6.
Jeez.
God, I hate X6. That game. Oh, that game grinds my gears. Like
Even though people say X5 isn't like really good, I have a lot of nostalgia for X5 though. X5, I think it's okay.
X5 is still playable. There are
Yeah.
things to like about it. I'll even say X6. You know, one thing that pissed me off about X6, it has the coolest armors out of all of the games.
Yeah.
It hands down has the coolest armors. Like X has the blade armor, and he has the shadow armor, which I think are the coolest armors that he has. But they're in a game that's so balls to the wall, like in your face, like you have the nightmare system in that game is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like
Jeez. It's kind of like fighting games nowadays where they so much shit to like interact with, and you're like, damn, I kind of go back to the older stuff, you know?
ah yes, very very Capcom, very.
Yeah. They're Capcom. I love Capcom, man, but they're very much into that whole experimental. They go through phases where they do a lot of good, then a lot of bad, and then they go back to
Yeah.
doing good. Exactly like with Resident Evil, you know? Like after what 5 and 6, people hated the series, and then they went back to their roots with 7, and then now the remakes.
The funny thing is, you know, 5 did very very. 5 is actually still to this day the most successful Resident Evil game.
Oh yeah,
Or 5 was massively successful, which is funny, right? Because people get mad at 6, but I'm like, how are you guys mad at 6? But the same people that are like mad at 6, it's like you were slobbing all over 5's knob, bro. Like, what did you expect them to do? You basically, when you guys bought 5 like multiple times,
Yeah.
you basically told Capcom, oh yeah, we need more co-op, we need more exploding barrels and punching of boulders.
yeah, yeah. And they were like, don't be too influenced by the movies, but isn't that like to an extent like 4 was kind of like that way too, you know?
Yeah, 4 was definitely the start. You know, I think one guy I watched, he made a very good video about how 4 saved the franchise and caused like the downfall. Because 4 was the start of the action-oriented gameplay, but 4 still had enough horror elements in there to kind of like give you the spooks.
Yeah. And
But the funny thing about 4 was that 4 had multiple iterations. They had multiple builds of 4, and was it Mikami was under a lot of pressure at Capcom to make it hit, so he got to a point when they're on the second or third build. He was like, screw it, I'm just gonna do everything I can to make it fun. I don't care anymore. I'm not focused on making it scary. I'm just trying to make it fun.
yeah, and then like part of that development like process, then they make DMC1 as well, which turned out to be another hit franchise.
Yeah, the Resident Evil 4 DMC was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, but Kamiya, you know, Mikami told Kamiya, you know, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't even have to be a horror game. And Kamiya was like, all right, say less. And then like Mikami was kind of like, well, what the fuck? Like, and then, you know, Mikami was like, no, to be fair, this is really fun. You know, we just got to make it something different.
Yeah. Which is something I hope a lot of games do, because I've been hearing a lot of talk about it when it comes to like Tekken 8 as well. I always bring it back to fighting games, but like could you imagine if Tekken 8 was not Tekken 8 but another like IP or franchise that was more experimental? Maybe it would have survived a little bit more. And I felt the
Or if
same
it was
way.
at least like a spin-off.
Yeah.
Like if it was just a Tekken spin-off instead of a mainline entry, like, you know, it could have gotten away with this stuff.
Yeah, which you can kind of like argue that the case was with Soul Calibur 6. You know, they tried doing their own thing and that flopped, but that also had different like problems. But it's always risky to try to do a new IP with experimental process, which is why some people play it safe with older IPs and they just fuck up the legacy.
Yeah, I mean that's the way of like most companies nowadays. Most companies are not trying to take risks.
Yeah.
You know, Capcom is prime the prime example of where like their whole strategy towards releasing games has completely changed ever since like 2017, where it's like Capcom is gonna try to release legacy IPs that they know are gonna sell well and like mitigate risk. And we'll see. We'll probably continue to see more collections of like older games because Capcom has stated they want all their older games similar to how SNK announced it last year. Capcom announced a few months ago they want all their older games to be playable. So
Yeah.
we'll like to see more collections of games and maybe even other fighting games that still haven't been re-released, like Techromancer
And even like the first Star Gladiator and Rival Schools, because those weren't in the second collection. At least not that I see.
Yeah, they're not. I'm assuming because those games it's a little bit different, right? Because like everything released on the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 was basically released in the era of where like those games got released like on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, like the Naomi Dreamcast like era, right?
Like almost all of the games in that collection released on the Dreamcast with the exception of Fighting Jam.
Yeah.
So it probably wasn't a lot of work to get them to work together to package them together on that collection, but the Star Gladiator and Rival Schools, they came out on the PS1.
Yeah.
It's probably a different like beast to probably get them on the collection.
Yeah, and even then those games are like not as good as the sequels because the sequels were great improvements.
Yeah, I heard I never played Star Gladiator, but when I saw Gaio Winkle's video, it was like Star Gladiator like the sequel is like basically completely invalidates the first game.
Yeah, it's so jank. I remember the old PS1 game. It's so jank, man. It's kind of like SF1 and SF2. SF2 is just way better as a game as a whole.
SF2.
Yeah.
Man, the World Warrior version of SF2 is the most insane thing I've probably ever seen in my life. Like Gaio is people complain about Gaio in Street Fighter 5, but like if you saw Gaio on SF2,
oh my god, yeah. And it's funny because
it touches you.
In Super Turbo, you can like put a code to have like the old versions of the characters, and man, it's just insane.
Bro, he was so broken. He just touches you and you lose.
Yeah.
Like,
or Vega and Super Turbo is just gonna grab loop you, man.
Oh yeah, I forgot which version of the game. The interesting thing about Street Fighter 2 is like every version, somebody became basically the face of the game. There was one version of the game where Ryu was the best character. His roundhouse fire ball game basically couldn't be beat. And there was the version where Sagat basically ran it with his around the world like length normals and his fireballs. And then Vega ran it with his movement speed.
Or Balrog with his like insane damage, or Honda with his like three tap hand clap into like grab and shit, man. It's insane.
And Gaio and Bison's stun combos.
Yeah. So yeah, there's always been bullshit in fighting games, and I guess that's just to tie it back to the theme, is that we just have to build upon versions of what we have now. If not, just make the sequel.
Yeah, but that's definitely a fitting way to kind of send off. Yeah.
Yeah, because look, we'll tie it back to like the quintessential fighting game in my opinion: Super Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or what's it called? Was it called Dash or something in Japan, or X? Yeah, that took years upon years and variations and like different builds, different arcades, and different playtests to get it to be like the most like I would say the most important fighting game in the genre, and that took so long for it to get better, because I remember doing a video with Saku. But you see how the game evolves from like Street Fighter 2 original to all the way to Super Turbo, and it's a completely different game. But in the case of modern fighters, you get everything out and like you have all this mechanics out, but when it comes to like Street Fighter 2, it kind of built its way up to it, because it didn't have super meters in the beginning, but now at the end it has like super meters and like you can tech throws and all that stuff. But Yeah, it's just a discussion that's kind of not. It doesn't have a definitive answer. It really just depends on the games and the different builds. But the player base is always going to decide what they like and what they don't like. You know.
Absolutely.
But
Also, it's also the duty of the developer to honestly just ensuring that there's a completed product.
yeah,
Um, I'm happy. I'm happy. MK1 is making its turnaround. Um,
yeah,
I feel bad for Tekken 8. Tekken 7 was a great success, and they're very much pissing away the goodwill of the fans with what's going on,
yeah,
which is quite the turnaround.
yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, we've been. Wow, this was a 3-hour discussion. That was
Yeah, very much
great,
so.
great
Yeah.
amount of content here.
We absolutely we had our tangents.
Yeah, but
Some of this stuff definitely has to be its own live stream. The whole the versus series in itself, that's definitely like I could probably write a book about that.
Oh yeah, and all just like all the different hyper fighters and shit, you know.
Mhm.
But,
Absolutely.
yeah, but this was fun, man. This was pretty fun, man. This is a great stream. I'm not sure if you still want to make this into like a video, but I'll have it up on the channel if you need me to do so.
Uh, sure, we could talk more about it. More about well, future collaboration definitely is gonna be in the works.
Yeah, this was fun, man. I love collaborating with different people. It's been like very fun on the channel, and it's like crossovers and fighting games. To be a little corny about it, you get new audiences with every time you collab with people.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that's an end to tonight's live stream on the debate of core mechanics, core systems in fighting games.
Yeah, we had a very productive discussion. There was a lot of a lot of nuance, I would say. We weren't both technically on. Well, I like the older and you like the newer. It was more like half and half, and more like I like some of it
Yeah.
here and you like some of it there. It's just something very productive, and it's something that I like talking about too.
It was a very nuanced discussion on like what we can kind of take from the older fighting games to apply to the newer fighting games, and some of the positive stuff that the newer games still bring to the table.
Yeah, and even just giving you some of the negative stuff of the older fighting games. Every game has their ups and downs and their different builds and takes of what really cater to their fan bases.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, but not to. This might go on for another 4 hours if we don't.
Yeah, this
end it here.
easily could go on for like another 3 hours.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys made it this far into the live stream, I want to say thank you for everybody who dropped a like, and tuned in to this crossover stream. Maximus, where can they find you? What do you want to promote on the channel, and what do you want to have as closing statements? I'll give it to you.
I would say honestly, thanks for having me as a guest. We're definitely can't wait to work on some more stuff together in the future. I believe you have me the app for my YouTube channel. Guys can find me at MaximusZ305 on YouTube. You can find me also on Twitter, same handle, MaximusZ305. I have used to post there a lot in the past, but I'm starting to post there again. And yeah, that's typically where you can find me: YouTube and Twitter.
It's awesome. Yeah, I've checked out some of his videos, and they're really high quality, guys. They're really amazing. They're honestly like I have videos that I play in the background, but these are videos I actually sit down and watch. So yeah, it's been an honor having you on the stream, man.
Actually, it was a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Can't wait to do this again.
hell yeah, man. But with that, we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna close this like Ryu and Cyclops with the handshake. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you everybody on my side, on Rick's audience, and everyone on Maximus's audience. And I just want to say thank you guys as always for watching. I know it was something different on the live stream side of things, but yeah, it's been a great discussion about fighting games. I always like talking about these topics, and I just want to say Um, yeah, always keep playing fighting games. Always have these discussions, and just want to say, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I await your return, Warriors. So goodbye, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, Maxis, you can say your goodbyes too if you want.
Okay. Thanks for having me on, guys. Continue to play fighting games. They're all good. Even Tekken 8 is pretty good, you know. Despite its issues. But again, thanks for having me on, and can't wait to continue to do some more live streams with you.
All
Good
right.
old warrior, buddy.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, and take care.